So, good morning again. I think we can slowly start. My name is Giulia Carboni, Program Coordination Manager in CINEA for the LIFE program. It is a pleasure for me to welcome you to the LIFE Welcome Days for the LIFE22 projects, which are starting their LIFE journey in this month. It's 250 projects starting now in this year. And yeah, it's a pleasure for me to be here. I've been working for the LIFE program since almost 10 years. Yeah, talking to this normally on the LIFE Info Day. So if you have applied and followed the Info Day, that was me there. And right now you are 470 attendees, but we have more than 1,000 people registered. So I guess this number will also increase during the day. If I can ask the colleagues in the back office to show the slides, I will show you the agenda of the day, what we have in there for you. Your project is just starting, and we know you have a lot of questions, and we have a lot of information to share. So I will very soon give the floor not to my head of department, Annetta Willems. She's unfortunately not there. It will be Anne Burrell and Hans Rhein to take the floor, respectively the two head of units of the LIFE Environment and LIFE Climate and Energy unit. Then it will be the word will be passed to me again on communication dissemination, contractual obligation, and best practices. That's something you have to take care of during your LIFE project. Well, afterwards it will be my colleagues Anne Vermalen and Licinia Pereira, head of sector and financial manager, on the financial presentation, which will be a first dance introduction to the different grant agreement and financial matters, but there will be further financial slots on the 24th of October, specifically on financial issues. We'll have a short break, and afterwards we'll come back with Silvia Donato and Ulrike Nuschler, who will talk to you about the LIFE impact KPI, key performance indicators, and there will be a question and answer session on this specific topic. And we will close the day with a message from our director, Paloma Bagarrote. So that's the day of today. Tomorrow there will be another section, another series of sections on various topics, especially on more specifically on grant agreements or rules and on the role of the external technical monitors that you have as a support. Can I have the next slide, please? Yes, so that's very important. You have, we are there for you on Slido. You can join it by using the QR code or just type in internet slido.com, and hashtag is hashtag EULIFE22. This is the slide that we will use to answer your question of the day. If you have already some communication question, you can already put them there, but wait for the other question and just ask them when we are at the session discussing the specific subject. That makes our life easier, and you have better chances to get your reply. Of course, as it always works in Slido, you can like the question that others have asked, because if there are too many questions, we will start with those that have the highest number of likes, and that's and so don't repeat a question, just like the one that you saw if it's very similar to the one that you would have had. So we have more than 500 of you behind the screen. I think we can slowly continue and start. So next slide, please. That's I guess if there are no further slides, I would give the floor to Anne Burrell for her words of welcome to you. Anne, we cannot hear you. Can you unmute?
Yes. Thank you very much, Giulia. Ladies and gentlemen, dear LIFE beneficiaries, dear representatives of the national contact points, good morning and a big, big welcome to this happy event to kick off the new LIFE projects that were selected under the LIFE 2022 call. As Giulia mentioned, I'm speaking on behalf of Annetta Williams, who is our head of Department D in the European Climate Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency. This is an agency that was established by the European Commission, more commonly known as SINEA. Annette is unfortunately ill at the moment, but she asked me to present the words that she prepared. So first and foremost, I'd like to congratulate you on your successful applications under the Life Climate Action, Life Nature and Biodiversity, Life Circular Economy and Quality of Life, and Life Clean Energy Transition programs. All of your projects will contribute to a greener, more inclusive, and resilient Europe. Our organization, SINEA, is one of the 6 executive agencies that was established by the European Commission to implement EU funding programs. Our specific agency is governed by 7 of the policy directorate generals of the European Commission, and in total, we manage 7 different programs. Our agency started its operations in April of 2021 by combining programs, projects, and staff from 2 of the previous executive agencies, which perhaps you had heard of, that was INEA and IASME. Altogether, with the new programs that started up for the period 2021 to 2027, SINEA manages more than 58 billion euro of finance for these various programs. So in short, SINEA is the contracting authority for your grant agreements. So Aneta and our whole team, we are your counterparts, and our role is to monitor and support the implementation of your projects. Myself, as Julia mentioned, I'm the head of the Life Environment Unit, and our unit is responsible for the nature and biodiversity and the circular economy and quality of life sub-programs. After I finish speaking now, this brief introduction, I'll pass the floor to Hans Rhein, who is the head of our sister unit, which covers the climate and clean energy transition sub-programs. But before doing that, I want to say the few words that Aneta asked me to pass on. I'm sure you already know, but LIFE is the only EU program which is exclusively dedicated to the environment, nature, and climate change. Obviously, then, it fully contributes to the objectives and targets of the European Green Deal. For the period 2021 to 2027, we're going to be making this contribution through an overall budget of a bit less than 5.5 billion euro. But LIFE is not a new program. In fact, I'm sure some of you have been involved with LIFE already in the past. So far, we've had 30 successful years of implementation. And during these 30 years, the LIFE program has made a real difference on our continent. We've worked to protect European biodiversity, to implement the conservation status, to improve the conservation status of habitats and species, to address environmental challenges related to waste, water, air quality, etc., and also to support the EU's climate action agenda. The new program for this financial framework from 2021 to 2027 continues to be a very important tool for the EU. It's important because we're addressing the unfortunately even more urgent challenges facing our society. As set out in the LIFE regulation, our present LIFE program aims to contribute to the shift to a circular, energy efficient, and renewable energy based and climate resilient economy, to protect and improve the quality of the environment, and to halt and reverse biodiversity loss. LIFE is set up importantly to support the development, implementation, and enforcement of the relevant union legislation and policy on environment, on climate action, including clean energy transition. So we're a real program of action, getting out there and doing what's needed to really make a change on the ground. Your projects were selected because we're sure that they will contribute directly to these objectives and because we expect them to be able to kickstart action across Europe. You can make a significant difference to the environment of Europe. We know you will. We know that through the lessons learned during the lifespan of your project, you'll be influencing the development of EU policy. We also expect that your projects will become models that will be replicated and upscaled at a broader scale to help us face these really important societal challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by underlining that your engagement and enthusiasm are essential elements to the success of this program. We know you are enthusiastic. We know you have your engagement, and we'd like to really thank you for this, for your dedication, not only today and tomorrow, but also throughout the implementation of your projects. For those of you whose projects fall under the nature and biodiversity and circular economy and quality of life subprograms, I and the project advisors in my unit, together with our external monitoring team, will be working closely with you to achieve these objectives. Today and tomorrow, you'll have an introduction to the many legal and financial rules that govern the program. It's very important to make sure that you understand these rules so that you avoid any pitfalls along the way. However, beyond ensuring that you implement your projects in compliance with the rules, our bigger aim is really to work with you to ensure that your projects have a real impact, that they make a difference on the ground, they make a difference for the development of our policies. We picked your projects because we believe in them and we're here to help you. Our common objective is to be successful in catalyzing a change that will improve the life of European citizens. And we will be accompanying you on this journey. So now, to conclude the introduction, I'd like to pass the floor over to my colleague Hans Rijn, who, as I mentioned before, he's responsible for the subprograms for climate and for clean energy transition programs. Thank you all very much, and over to you, Hans.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Julia, for these opening words, and good morning to you all. My name is Hans Rijn. I'm the head of unit and newly arrived head of unit for the Life Energy and Life Climate program in CINER. And the unit is quite a large unit of approximately 30 staff, and manages both the clean energy transition programs under which you have applied, as well as the climate change adaptation and mitigation programs. I'm very pleased that we have these welcome meetings with all of you, and I'm very pleased and very positively surprised at the great interest in participating in these welcome days, because it allows us, both the projects, as well as us, to ensure that your projects get off to a smooth start. And I think that is very important, because as Anne has said, we are keen to ensure that you can dedicate your time and your energies on the objectives that you have set out in your projects. And the better we have clarified at the beginning the procedural aspects of managing our funds, I think that that allows you to dedicate more time to your projects objectives and the impacts, and also allow our colleagues to support you in that endeavor. You will meet some of the colleagues from my unit already during these 2 days. We also have a dedicated session for the climate mitigation and climate adaptation projects on the 5th of October. So I'm looking very much forward to meeting some of you there again. And with these opening words, I just would like to welcome you very warmly again, and wishing you very good success in your projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hans. Thank you very much, Anne, for being here with you and welcoming the new life projects. Now it's, we continue talking about life. There are many things that will be said in these 2 days on how you can manage your grant best. One of the aspects of the grant is certainly communication. But that's why I'm here with a few other colleagues to talk about communication. I'd like to have the slides there so that we can continue. Yes, so let's talk about life and effective communication for life. Next slide, please. We will go through these bullets together. I will introduce you to the people working behind communication in life, talking about the key requirements. So it's a two-way street. We do a lot for you, but you should do a lot for your project to communicate about what you're doing. And we will go little bit more specifically into social media, because we've been asked for many new projects on tips and suggestions. We'll let you know how to become a life amplifier. We'll give you some tips on how to handle press and news, and we'll have some time for questions. But all of this, I'm not doing it alone. So next slide, please. Yeah, so there is a big team behind live communication. A part of this team is located in Cinea. It's me, it's our communication manager, Marisa Bellerin Sanchez, Martin Abel. I'm working from the side of environment and nature, while Martin works from the side on climate and energy. Both of them, unfortunately, cannot be here with us today, but they are behind their computer and screens all the other days, working also in communication. Rosa de Young, she is with us today, our community manager. And also with us today is Virginie Louis. I think you can already see her.
Hello.
Hello, Virginie. Life is a big program, and the people you saw on the left side, so me, Martin, and Marisa, we also work on other issues. We also work on projects, especially me and Martin. So Life has external contractor, a consortium composed by Stantec and VIA Europe, with many professional communicators that support us in this. And that's why we decided to do this presentation together, Virginie, to really show to the projects who is on the other side and who is there to support them. You'll see the faces of Virginie, Evgenia, Florine, Caroline, Laure, and then there are other names for the editorial team. What is also important is that there are 2 different email addresses that you can use. One where you write directly to Cinea Communication Live at eceuropa.eu, if you have events coming up or anything that you really want to be on the Live website, for example, or where in case you need a specific advice on where to place the logo or how to deal with communication requirement. But our external contractor has also a Live email address. That's live.communication@stantec.com. And that's very relevant because they are all the time looking for good stories, the good stories from your projects, or they might contact you indeed to know more about your project, to get some pictures, to perhaps have an interview. So that's why it's important that you see these names, you know who they are, and you know that they could come to you to ask you about the progress of your project, also for communication purposes. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's a big question. I ask it every year. So if you are a recurrent Live project, you probably already know the answer. If you're not, I'd like you to reflect on why you should communicate on your Live project. It's a duty toward taxpayers. Up to 95 or 60 or 75% of the grant comes from EU taxpayers' money. Or is it to get better chances of project success and lasting impact once you communicate about the work you're doing, or better chances for further funding and investment? Because sometimes, especially on the climate and the circular economy and quality of life strand, you might have developed a tool, but you still need money to develop it further. So communication could help you with better to fund further funding, help solve societal challenges, those that are at the bottom of the environmental objectives that your project has, influence local and regional policy to exactly achieve environmental protections or stop climate change, or at least mitigate. What do you think you are working for, you are communicating for when you work on your Live project? Actually, each of us might have his own preference and his own goal, but what we really like to stress is that all these goals are valid and important. There are all these reasons behind the communication activities. And this is why my colleagues were so nice to say, okay, let's put the communication slot now at the beginning of the agenda. Is not because it's fresh, but it's because it's something that sometimes gets a little bit forgotten, taken care of only through the end. And this is a pity because there are many reasons, and you see them there, why you should communicate about your LIFE project and the EU funding you're receiving from the very beginning. So let's see the next slide, because there is a sixth reason why you should communicate it about LIFE. It's a contractual obligation. That's maybe the more boring reason, but it's certainly the more legal and serious reason. So you really have to, you agreed on with your grant agreement to give visibility of EU funding. There is an article in your grant agreement that gives a grant for this, the article 17.2. And then there is the Annex 5 that really explains how to deal with the LIFE logo, on having also the centers co-funded by the European Union next to it. And for all those nature projects, we also ask you to put the Natura 2000 logo on your material, on all communication, websites, social media, notice boards, print material presentations. You can find the logo and the funding statement, the co-funding by the European Union in all EU languages on the LIFE website, specifically on the page Communication and GDPR rules. And as I said before, when in doubt, you can contact us at Senior LIFE Communication, and we'll give you further information on how to deal with it. Next slide, please. This is very important. This is the quality of information disclaimer. So while on all your communication materials, of course, it's sufficient to just put the logo and the sentence. When it is about views and opinions, so the technical knowledge that you're sharing with your project, it is very important that you have the quality of information disclaimer. So these views and opinions expressed are those of the author and not necessarily the one of the European Union Senior. We recognize your authorship, and you should also identify it with the information disclaimer. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we said it's in the grant agreement, it's stated there, and there are some key requirements which are obligatory. A presence on the web page. So normally it's on the existing organization website, but we know some of you who, with projects with many partners, international consortia, or a very high communication potential, would have a specific web page dedicated to the project. If that was allowed during revision, that's totally fine. But the project has to have a web presence, either hosted or in a specific one. Of course, it must include the LIFE logo on a Natura 2000 logo, online within 6 months, regularly updated, and we recommend you to keep it online after the end of the project to maximize project impacts. And a novelty since 2021, a communication and dissemination plan. So next slide, please. The communication dissemination plans, there you think and you write down what are the objectives, key messages, and target audience for your project. What are the communication channels and the social media plan that you want to develop? And what is your planned budget? And what are the relevant indicators for monitoring and evaluating your communication activities? Our recommendation on this, very often this is an activity that is kind of subcontracted to another entity, to a very good and smart communication advisor that will write something down for you. Good, but not good enough, because this communication dissemination plan is really for your project, and it is your project coordinator or some people of the technical staff that know very well who would be the target audience. You need the support of communication experts to do this. You cannot do it without communication experts, but you also need the technical knowledge. This is why this specific plan has become a deliverable of each project, and it's very important that you think about it at the beginning and not at the end, because that will be your guidance towards your communication activities. I know that there are already some questions in Slido, and I know that those are a bit mixed on all possible subjects. Please try to be to wait for the subject of your interest to ask the question. Otherwise, it will be difficult to manage the question when we answer them. So now, all your questions about communication, please put them in, and for the others, just wait, and we will tackle them in the next session. Next slides, please. Yeah, a final publishable report. This is not an obligation. We also used to call it the layman's report, but it's something that we ask you to do because it's very important to express your project in a short and concise way with an appealing design. It's aimed at the public. You should write it in English, but do write it also in your local language if you think it's meaningful, depending on the area of your project. Use it to tell a story and foster replication. We don't ask you anymore to print it. Print it only if it makes sense, depending on your audience, but at least have it in digital format. Send it to us at the end of the project, and do put it on your project or organization website. That's very important. Next slide, please. Yeah, notice board and logo placement, especially for some nature and climate project, but also circular economy and quality of life. You might have works on the ground, and you do want to talk to the citizens and tell them what's happening there. And this is what notice boards are for. It's both giving visibility to the EU funding, but also to explain what is going on there, what's happening. There are some major works that some projects might be doing, and it's very important to let even the people passing by know what's happening there. Next slide, please. Networking. This is something we want you to do, but it's also something that you should do. That's because that really helps you in reaching out to other projects, to other entities, to potential further funding. You might then get a prize like the lady there from CET projects and a meeting at the European Sustainable Energy Week. You might have outdoor meeting with other life nature projects and show them the way you are handling a specific issue. You might want to host or be part of a platform meeting like the one on the button on peatlands that took part last spring in Berlin with Lynn Barat and Silvia Barova and Hanna Mandelikova, or just meet with other alike projects, even from other programs like those guys that you see in front of a big truck. That's there was an Horizon, a LIFE, and an Interact project meeting together. These are all opportunities you should take in high consideration, and do not forget to let us know from the communication side that you're doing that, and we could have a nice article or news about this. Next slide, please. Yes, so those were the basics. That was my role to introduce them to you, but there is more than that you can do to promote your project. That's why I'm now handing the floor to Virginie. She's our communication expert, and she has a lot to share with you. Thanks, Virginie.
Thank you, Julia. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I hope that everyone is awake since we've been busy for the last half hour. So we'd like to take you along on a communication journey across 4 main pillars. Hopefully, they will be in line with your communication and dissemination plan that you submitted at the time of the project proposal. And if you believe you need to revise it following this presentation, it is up to you. So let's go to the next slide and see how first the communication team supports the LIFE program and its promotion for the LIFE call for proposal, but also to put you as new project in the spotlight. So those 4 pillars are really essential for you to remind yourself and for us to be in touch, as we will feature your project on the website when there is interesting, relevant news, when you have made progress in your and can demonstrate a bit of impact, especially if it's visual or if it's a landmarking event in your project, in your sector. We also have a newsletter where we update all LIFE projects about LIFE program, but also events and potential participation to other third-party events. And we also have an event calendar. Second pillar is about social media. And Rosa, my colleague, will dedicate a bit of time to explain you the difference between the social media channels. Some of you are probably very aware of it, others a bit less. So we'd like to give the opportunity to everyone to actually make their decision on where to venture on social media for their projects to be best promoted and best featured and to reach its audience. Third pillar is about bringing your project to events. There can be senior European Commission events, but also others in your country or in your sector. Fourth is to make your project part of EU corporate communications campaign and initiative or social media campaigns. Next slide, please. So a glimpse on our website, please make sure you visit the LIFE program website because there are many resources and tools also for communications. You can find the newsletter. It's only once a month, so I would encourage you to subscribe. It's not going to suffocate your mailbox, but it gives you a bit of insights on what news we're looking at and we're looking for. So it might give you a hint when to contact us and to inform us through the senior web email that will be part of this presentation that will be distributed to you, as many have asked this on Slido already. Don't worry, you will receive these this presentation with the links. And you can also find the links to the event calendar, where we have, of course, a dedicated tag for live program, where that you can choose, so you can make sure you only view live related events, as there are many, many different events there. So it's also good to know from you if your project is in climate or energy. You can also search for events that are organized by other entities and other initiatives, but make sure you select the live program under program search bar if you want to know about upcoming events for live. Next slide, please. Then we've made efforts in the last month to look into projects and contact the live projects that we wanted to feature. And this will probably be the first time or main reason for us to be in touch, is that we are recruiting great speakers or great project representative for providing us with quotes, with interviews, potentially be talking to the press, and also project photos. So when an event has happened, when you have a few photos, select the top 3 photos of your event or of your activity, your field visit, or your launch of program, and share them with us so we can keep an eye on your project and further down the line produce a news article, which is then distributed to your national contact points, to other stakeholders within the European Commission, as well as to national stakeholders, industry associations, or nature environment networks. Next slide, please. So we have our own social media channels, which are useful to promote the life goals, to promote the recent policies, to also showcase how live program turned policy into action, because this is the way our communication is driven, is really to showcase the impact and show that live program is a people's program. So we also feature not only animals like you can see in this photo, but also people that are contributing to this program. So our channels are there. You can see on Twitter, X becoming former Twitter, at live program. And then the little subtlety with all the other channels is that we have a space between live and program in the handle for LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. There's also a Clean Energy EU underscore EU handle to check out for the clean energy projects, clean energy transition projects, as it's very dedicated to this topic, and it's quite interesting to keep abreast of what's happening around the European Commission, DG Energy, and all the different stakeholders on clean energy transition. This is just a tip also if you're about to set up your social media accounts. Use the same label, use the same handle across the accounts. It will help you and also your community to track down and find out about your news on whatever platform you would like to launch your accounts. Next slide, please. So I'd like to invite now Rosa, our community manager, who will tell you a bit more about how to using social media effectively, as it takes a bit of time. So it's important to know where to put your effort and time in managing social media.
Yes, so hi everyone, my name is Rosa. I am the community manager, so I am the face behind all the channels that you just saw on the previous page. Like we just mentioned, you can reach out to us over email for any of these updates, and I will be the one amplifying your message on these different channels. So why is social media so useful? I think it's a way to share news and connect with audiences, as well as spread awareness about your project and connect with other LIFE projects about different topics and see what's happening in the community as well. However, it is quite important that you reach the right audience, which can be kind of tricky. And I know that this is quite a lot of text, so take your time later to read back on the specifics of it. So if we move to the next slide. Yeah, so what we mentioned is social media takes quite a bit of time and dedication, because each different platform has a different audience, has different specific needs. So it's important for you to know how to communicate your project on these different platforms, and not every platform is right for every project. So take your time to kind of figure out what kind of works for you and how you want to connect to your audiences. So we can move to the next slide. Then yeah, I would want to start saying that it's not, because you just started out, it's not important, it's not required to be on all different platforms immediately from the start, right? So if you are thinking about starting with social media to communicate your messaging, like create your messaging, your tone of voice to your different audiences, pick one platform first. I know a lot of LIFE projects start out with Twitter because it's easy accessible and you can kind of post daily or anytime. It doesn't have that much of a specific algorithm as other platforms. But you can kind of pick any platform to start with and kind of see what works best to communicate your messaging to your audiences. So it really differs what kind of audience you want to reach. And if you look here on the left, we kind of specified which audiences are present on each different platform. I know a lot of nature-focused projects like using Instagram because of the imagery. It protects a really specific audience there, but then there's also different ways of working with each platform. So the main takeaway of this one is kind of think about what is specific to your region, where your project is located, as well as the field that you're working in, and kind of looking at what works best for my project right now. You can start with all four if you're comfortable with it, but like I mentioned, it's quite a time and dedication to really communicate your messaging properly and reach a bigger audience. You can best start with one or two at first time and see how that goes, and then reach out and dive into the others more. So if you look on the right, there's some examples of what you could post, what kind of specifics are there for different platforms, because the way you post on each platform is also, again, different with tone of voice. But you can dive into that very, very deeply. We won't do that now. So if we move to the next slide. If you decide on starting a social media account, creating a social media account on any platform, it's really important to keep two things in mind to really disseminate your message. One is using hashtags, really specific to your project. It could be even your project's name, so you can track kind of when your project is mentioned, but also the field that you're in, the region, and of course there are LIFE program specific hashtags, so they pop up on my feed, so I can reblog and repost and share your messaging with the wider LIFE audience. Then it's also very important to tag people or tag places and partners. I would suggest specifically partners or EU institutions, NGOs that you know are working on similar topics, as well as, of course, the LIFE program. If you tag me, I will see, if you tag the LIFE program, I will see it pop up, and I can again amplify your messaging across all platforms that you are present on. If you look on the right, there's an example of how you could use specific hashtags, as well as how you can tag people. You can also tag people in the text, but that of course takes away from the characters. So yeah, you can look at these examples later as well. We move to the next slide. We have compiled a few lists of specific hashtags that you can consult if you are starting out on social media. There are some EU-specific hashtags, as well as more focused on the thematic areas. I would suggest definitely, if you are creating a post, always use the hashtag LIFE program or project hashtags, because then they come up again on the live feed, and also you can kind of see which other projects are posting about it. It attracts a wider audience, because some people also follow specific hashtags, and LIFE program is one of them that people follow to catch up on the latest news on live projects. There's another hashtag called Life Amplifier, and we will briefly touch upon that if we go to the next slide. So the LIFE program has a really interesting campaign called Life Amplifier. And what it basically is, what you do as a LIFE amplifier is that you spread the word about the LIFE program. So you follow the LIFE program on any social media. It doesn't have to be all 4 social media. It can be just either Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram, whichever one you are, your project is on. You can, the idea of LIFE amplifier is that you reshare messaging coming from the LIFE program on your personal, on your project's channel. And this also has benefits for your project, because if you become a LIFE amplifier, the LIFE program will promote your project on their social media channels, which helps you reach a way wider audience, different other projects as well. If you become a LIFE amplifier, you become part of the community of LIFE amplifiers, means that you can connect with other LIFE amplifiers on different topics similar in your field or your region, so you can kind of see what they're doing, and it creates a very nice link also among projects. Another benefit is that there are social media ready to be posted messages. If you can click on the link if you receive the presentation later. There's templates as well for visuals and imagery, so it makes it also, if you're just starting out on social media, and some of you might be very familiar already and some of you might not know much about it, and it can be quite daunting to get started. So if you become a LIFE amplifier, there's ready to go messaging, and it really gives you a good start to like get going with social media and connect with other projects and see how they're managing their social media accounts. Again, this can be on any platform. It doesn't have to be all 4, it can just be one. How to become a LIFE amplifier is really simple. So you basically, it's for any project. If you just started out, it can be just fresh starting social media account. Just contact me directly. So contact the LIFE program directly on social media through Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or even through email, letting us know like that you want to become a LIFE amplifier. And again, you don't have to be on all platforms. You don't have to post daily. It's just to get started. And then the LIFE program will add you to the different community lists that there are for messaging, as well as you can use the templates and social media messages. It's also very important that you use the hashtag LIFE amplifier, because then other projects can see that you are, and the LIFE program sees that you are a LIFE amplifier, and can help you disseminate your messages on their platform as well. Yes, can we go to the next slide? So here are 2 examples of LIFE amplifiers and their use of hashtags, as well as the use of the templates for you to have a look at on how to write best copy, or to how the templates look like. So you can have another look later when you receive the PowerPoint on how to go about this. But yeah, we would be really excited to welcome you into the Life Amplifiers community on social media. Yes, can we go to the next slide? I think that was the biggest part on social media. I'll give the floor back to Virginie to speak briefly about reach out on media to media and news pages.
Thank you, Rosa. So just two last item we wanted to get across is the news page that projects are expected to create on their website or on a standalone website. Both are totally fine. Some basic tips for creating these updates in the content. We wanted to I will make you aware that what's really important for your audience and for us is actually to summarize in the title what's the news, what's the recent discovery, recent step, recent approach, or other any news in the life of your project that has to be noticed. We also wanted to tell you that in a very short, concise way, like 250 words, if that speaks to someone, subheading can really expand on the headline provided. And it is quite useful to also already provide the announcement within this short introduction. Don't forget to mention the location, the date of your announcement. In communications, we always speak about the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. This is interesting and important to be noted in a news update. Write 1 or 2 paragraphs also to provide more facts, and don't forget to use not to use technical terms, to use easy language and use quotes like a sentence people have said or observation people have made to give a bit of color to your announcement and your text. You can also always have a little paragraph where you summarize your project, your organization, your mission, your vision. This can be deducted from your objective paragraph in your proposal, as it's always good to remind the aim and objective that you're trying to achieve through your project. And never forget a link to your website and your social handles, as well as a contact for further information. Not only is that useful for potentially journalists or other colleagues from LIFE program that would like to be in touch with you, as we really favor also exchanges between LIFE program to learn from each other, visit and ask inquiries or giving tips to each other. So as long as you're happy to have your name, email address, and phone number up there, depending, of course, on your level of publicity you'd like to receive, we encourage you to do so. And if you happen to be media friendly, contact your journalist contact your local journalist. It is always good because when a news starts somewhere, it then it's like a seed for further pickup by other more national or international or European journalists. And of course, sorry, for us to repeat and to promote further your project. So many have asked again, which is the email address you can send us these updates to. It's the Senior Communication Life at eceuropa.eu. We also have a monitoring tool which will record your URL, your website address, and which will monitor on a weekly basis what's been updated on your website. And aside on this template, on this slide, we have put 3 projects example for the press release page or news update page. These are the page we monitor. So these are the page very often on a website project that are the most updated and that we use to announce upcoming events of your project or to announce any update or nice discovery in the life of your project. So this is also a way for us to keep track on your progress, is to follow that URL that is most updated on your website. So that is also interesting and important for you to share it with us. We also on our side make sure that we track new projects to see if they have created their web page. but communication both ways is always more effective. Next slide, please. So we'd like also to make sure that you're aware of events, virtual, hybrid, physical one you can take part to. It is a bit also on up to you to decide if you want to be present at a sectoral event, or if you believe that being a speaker at a virtual event or a presential event will help you promote further your project, raise more money, or engage more stakeholders in the making and in the outcome of your project. So what we have been supporting the technical monitors that will be in touch with you is to, for example, produce a scientific poster you can see on the left. That was for Histology Congress. So when you go to scientific congress, when it's done in agreement with your technical monitor, the communication team can be supporting you. So your entry to events, especially third-party events, is through your technical monitor. They help us to select the projects that can or would be, of course, relevant to take part to a congress or an event or a fair that we believe would be beneficial for promoting further the LIFE program. One thing is to be present there with a stand. This is what we will be doing for this fall, for example, at Pollutech or at Aquatech or at Clean Air Forum. And through the technical monitors and your policy advisor at CINEA, you can discuss to see if you would have relevant content to share or potentially interest in being present at those events. So the communication team supports technical monitors and policy advisors in the selection of live projects at events. And of course, we organize ourselves two main events through the year. It's the LIFE Awards, as well as the Info Days, to which you participate last year, hopefully, and that you can also find online on the LIFE program YouTube channel for following up on what happened. So all past events that have been filmed and recorded can also be found on the YouTube channels. Next slide, please. So making your project part of the EU communications campaign is also a very nice way to gain more visibility, and for us to also showcase how policy is being turned into action. For example, the latest Baltic conference was promoted and took part last week. And 5 projects received some attention on our social media channel as they contribute to make the Baltic Sea a cleaner and a better place for its fauna, ecosystem, and at the same time still useful for trade and all the other needs this sea is actually facing and expecting to be giving as a nature services. So make sure that when we reach out to you for providing us with photos and quotes and any other potential materials, we can have an answer, and also making sure that we can feature your project when it's relevant. Any materials or updates are to be sent to our CINEA email address, and in the next slide we'll see it again. So you can write it down and receiving actually the information you need. Next slide, please. So that's the email address. Really, that is the main one for you to communicate with us. And we can now pass on to the questions. As Julia, I've seen there are many questions on communications, which is great. One of which first one was about a potential a framework document where projects can refer to when it comes to communications requirements. So I think the Annex 5 you mentioned is probably the best one to refer to,
Yes.
as well as the communication link on the website. Julia.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but indeed, that was so what you see now there, this is all the questions we're receiving. And as people are very eager to also learn other things, day advanced, and the question up there, it's actually a financial question that will be answered by my colleague Anne Vermalen and Licina Pereira just after this lot. I can tell you, yes, there is a document, but I don't tell you which one is it because you will see it in their presentation. And this is the question that Virginie was answering to. And the template for communication dissemination plan would be super useful. Yes, it would be super helpful, but we don't have such a template to be adjusted to your project. The reason is because it would be helpful, yes, but the variety of projects we have out there, it's you would really wonder, and there is not one fit all solution that you could update. So what we might do in the future is in accordance with, in agreement with projects that are in favor, to share good dissemination communication plans, good examples from projects as they come, and then maybe you could get a little bit of inspiration there. But as I said, we can't have a template that fits all for you, so we cannot really do that. Next communication question. Is the opinion disclaimer to be used on all social media or just reports? Certainly only reports. As I said before, it's really for the technical content that you're sharing. When you are posting from your social media, it is very clear that that's your opinion from your social media. I don't know, Rosa, if you want to say something extra, but certainly we don't want to see the disclaimer written in after any social media post, I would say.
No, definitely. No, definitely. You don't have to add the disclaimer on social media.
That's really for your reporting, for your brochures, for your documents about content that your project is delivering. Next question. Dedicated website or just a present website beneficiary? So this is a bit delicate. Are both accepted? They have already been accepted, the one or the other. So when you went through the revision phase, you explained to us eventually, possibly, that you really needed a website for the project, and we said yes or no. Or you have only foreseen a presence on a web page of the beneficiary, which is fine as well. So this decision has already been taken for your project. You have already taken it. So if you are not aware, just go back to your colleagues or whoever was doing the revision phase and check what is foreseen. Next. Do we need a live flag for communication dissemination events? Yes, it would be very nice. And what we are doing, thanks to our external contractor, is that as soon as we are done with, let's say, all the welcome phase, there will be a shipping of live flags and Natura 2000 flags to each single project. So you will receive one and you can carry it for communication dissemination events. Please also understand that also our resources in terms of forecasting your needs are limited. So if you really realize that flags is something that you would need in more numbers because you have a lot of beneficiaries, do not hesitate to do your own, to prepare your own communication materials, including flags. That's we can't send you 20 flags because you have 20 partners. We cannot do that. So take care of it if you think that it's a good mean. And I will just answer, will you share the slides? Yes, we will share the slides, and we're also sharing the recordings. But we are just not fast enough with our fingers to reply to all the questions about slides and recordings. They will all be uploaded on the Welcome Meetings tool that you're using to register the platform, the Welcome Meetings platform. And so from there you can download. Rosa, I see the next question for you regarding tagging. Should we encourage partners posting? Can you see that one?
In the national language.
Yes, encourage partners posting
think?
in the national languages as well. Yes, of course. I think a lot of projects also use their social media in their native languages or different languages used in their region. So I think it's in any language, it's very important to tag your partners or the project or anyone involved to really disseminate the messaging. So yeah, And a lot of if your partners are for instance English and your post is not in English, it still allows the partner to translate on, for instance, Twitter or LinkedIn. They have the translate option. So I would definitely recommend tagging either in the picture that you post with your message or in the message itself. So it can be still very useful to just tag even any language works well.
Thanks, Rosa. Virginie was already giving the answer to the next question a bit. I think it is not easy to be part of events promoted by CINEA or the European Commission. Can you give a suggestion on how to proceed? For example, Ecomondo and Rimini. Well, of course, that's a very big one. Virginie, what would you say? You already said something about the reaching out to the technical monitors, right?
Yes, our practice is indeed to be in touch with the technical monitors, as they can advise us on which project has made the most achievement and is ready to be supported and present at third-party events. Because when you're present at such events, you're representing the LIFE program. So it's also good to know that your presence there is, of course, for your project, but it also beyond this as a sort of an ambassador. So I would make sure that you ask around your technical monitor as to know if there's any event representation foreseen, because we don't go at all fairs. And then it is up to us with Julia to decide where we invest a presence of live program at an event. But there is no support for presence of projects at events when there is no live program representation. So we would not support you to go to an event where, as an institution, we have not decided to go to, whether through a speaker or through a stand presence. Correct, Julia?
Yeah, very correct. Of course, you are free and welcome to go to any events that are meaningful for you and let us know, but we cannot support you in all of those endeavors. So indeed, it's the ball is with us when it's for events where we are going as CINE or LIFE or the European Commission is organizing. And I would say that there is actually the key there is performance. So what happens is that if there is an event, let's say the Clean Air Forum coming soon, what will happen in practice that we will look what are the best performing at the moment air projects that are solid that we could bring there and invite there. And of course, we can just bring 3 out of probably the 15 that are very, very good. So we need to do our selections, and we will ask also the technical monitor there, okay, what do they think? And the project advisor, what do they think? And then it comes to the few projects that can really go there. Next question, how can we pass the information to the live communication team when we have an event, for example, or an interesting report? There is one answer, which is the email address, right,
yes.
Virginie and Rosa?
Yes, the senior email address. And then Rosa also was inviting colleagues to get in touch with her through the personal messaging of social media accounts. For those that have already a social media account or they are working around their social media account, they can always be in touch with Rosa through the live program accounts using personal messaging. On that question, if I remember, there was also a question on how to decide to go to which media, social media, linking also related to Twitter. The question just appeared. Yes, of course, it's up to a project's decision to invest into Twitter, become X, as we are monitoring the situation to see how indeed the new rebaptized social media network X is evolving, and also how it will be free or not. But up to now, we're still finding it very useful. So I would say it's up to you to decide also if it reach your audience or if you rather use other social media accounts.
Yes, so we have answered both there. Can we decide not to use X? How can we pass the information? We said it via the email. So what would be next?
Any plans for future live podcasts similar to that made for Life
That's the
30?
very latest question. I would say no plans at the moment. But the live podcast was indeed very successful. And if you didn't listen to all of them, keep on listening. There are these 7 episodes there, but we don't have plans to do a next one soon. It's a lot of work. The posts that are in original languages, would you also share posts that are in original languages or only English ones that originate from the project social media? Rosa, what do you do with
Yes,
local
I
languages?
share also our local languages. So for me, it's when you tag the live program or you use the hashtag, it comes on the feed, and if it's an update, then I'll share it. Especially if you're a live amplifier, I will share it on the social media. Specifically, Twitter is where I repost most. So yeah, local languages are definitely reposted as well.
Thanks, Rosa. Then the next question: from whom should the Life and Nature 2000 stickers for equipment as well as flags for events be requested? So the email is still the same. It's in Life Communication. Let me remind you that the flag, we are sending them to you now at the beginning of the project. Probably they will arrive around January, and that should be enough for your needs of flags. So it's difficult for us to send more. We would still do it in case of a big event and if it's a beneficiary that it's far away, but normally we don't have resources to do it. Life and Natura 2000 stickers, they will also come in the first package with the flags. As very correctly written here, indeed, they are for equipment. They are only for the identification of equipment. They are not promo tools. They're not giveaways. So we will send them once, and it's still the same email address in case you would need more, really, because you have more equipment to label. And do not hesitate. You can also print your own live stickers for your equipment. That's not a problem. Okay.
Two very nice questions. One on the logo on social media post. Does social media post always have to have a live logo? Rosa?
It's recommended to do so on images. Julia, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I would say, I mean, it really depends. It's a common practice. We do provide you with templates so that you can use them easily and you can put your picture, and this is also, it looks also more professional, and you have a frame with a logo, but you don't have to. That's,
right,
I would say that's your social media channel, and you are the best place to decide when it's too much or when it's enough. So I wouldn't say that you need the logo in every post. What is very relevant is to have the hashtag on every post that you want us also to see, because that helps us to track you and to give further audience to your post, right, Rosa?
Yes, I was just going to say that it's nice to have the logo on your images so it's easily recognizable for also other projects as well as for the live program itself, but it's similar to when you use the hashtag. So it's not necessary to do it. It's encouraged to do it every now and then to show like the template, but it's not a required aspect of sharing images of your project team or your project location or anything like that. So.
Thanks. The next one is on notice board. Have to have a specific size. No, they don't have to have a specific size. We want to avoid a notice board forest. You are very right. But in which way a notice board forest? If you, so there is no specific size, but they have to be visible and readable. I mean, that's, and they need to fit in whatever environment you are setting them. If you're talking about a notice board forest of your own area, of course, do them in a way that they fit to each other and it doesn't look chaotic, but it's up to you. They will also be reimbursed the cost of the notice board, so it's something that we will also look at during our projects visit to see where they are and where they are located. In doubt, you can ask us. You can ask your project advisor. Where should we send the project materials if we want them to be presented in the channel presented? 4 columns.
Rosa. The senior mailbox.
Exactly, that's the one answer.
It will be in the presentation that we will share.
Exactly. And just to say it again, we are sharing all the presentations and all the recordings on the Welcome Days platform. So you will see it there again, and there is again the email address. Can a project that doesn't have a social media account but only an hashtag apply as a live amplifier? I'm afraid the answer is no. Rosa.
Yes, so you have to have at least one social media channel to be able to be a live amplifier.
A related
So this is sorry, yeah, I was just maybe we're talking about the same question, but there's another question earlier that you don't have to have a social media specifically dedicated to your project. You can also post project updates on like your partners or like your overarching project organizations channels. But then again, for specifically Live Amplifier, you'd have to need the project has to have at least one specific social media account dedicated to the project itself. So I hope that kind of explains that. But it's perfectly possible to post updates on your project on your organizations or a partner's channel, definitely.
Yeah, and I also saw something else through the question coming in, and I think it's very important. I don't know who is the national counterpoints behind that point, but yes, we kindly ask you to remind that according to the guidelines of LIFE NCPs, national counterpoints provide assistance to beneficiaries of ongoing projects to promote disseminations. Very true. So do not hesitate to reach out to your national counterpoints every time you have a meaningful activities for which you would need assistance to promote it. I know that there are some national counterpoints out there who do this very, very well, and they have initiated active campaign like the Live Project of the Month on their website, and they really give visibilities to Live projects. So that's really a very good reminder. Thanks, whoever the NCPs behind this question is. The communication plan is mandatory. Yes, it's the dissemination communication plan is a mandatory deliverable in your grant agreement, indeed. All relevant emails for questions regarding communication of live projects, yes, we are sending them to you while we are uploading this this presentation there, so you will have them at hand, and you also find them easily on the LIFE website on the communication GDPR rules subpage. That's where everything is. And I think we're just taking the very, very last question, and then we pass to the financial colleagues. So can a LIFE project participate in person in events outside of Europe or EU if they are related to the project? Yes and no. This is really a question for your project advisor, and it depends on your plans. If it's so if you have not planned that specific trip during in your proposal, and it's something new that is coming up, you definitely have to ask for agreement of your project advisor, and you need to explain why this event is relevant for you. I know occasion in the past when this happened, so that's possible, but yeah, it's not a given. It really depends. You have to explain to us why it's meaningful for you. I think we need to close here. And not all the gadgets need to have the indication co-funded by the EU if it doesn't fit. Okay, if you do little pens, there is no need to the co-funded by the EU. And this is a nice way to go to the administrative and financial guidelines, because my colleagues Licinia and Anver Pereira and Alvin Malen are there for you with their presentation, and they will also answer a lot of the questions that you have in mind regarding do's and don'ts, basically.
Thank you.
And Anne, the floor is yours. And thank you, Virginie and Rosa, for staying with me.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia and everyone. So good morning, everybody. My name is Licinia Pereira. I'm the financial officer here at the CINEA Life Operational Financial unit. And well, first of all, I wanted to say congratulations to you all. You've made it. So it's great that you've been selected and you're about, or you've recently started your project. And I know there's a lot to think about, to prepare, to coordinate, but it's not all about technical issues. There's project management, and of course, you cannot forget about the financial part. Some things have changed since the LIFE program 2014-2020, and you have to be aware of them. So because this has an impact on your action. So even if you might think that finance and contractual issues are not so interesting, I'm asking you to please give us your attention for the next hour, and also to please make sure that you are attending our specific financial meeting, which is scheduled for the 24th of October. If your financial manager, officer, or the person who is dealing with financial issues is not participating or hasn't registered yet, please make sure that this person is attending the meeting. We will be dealing specifically with staff costs. The way these are calculated and the way these are reported has changed. And I will be just making some brief references to that in our presentation today. So I'll be giving you some tips at the end and also some lessons learned, because we have already received some final reports and some additional pre-financing requests for the projects that have been selected and already ongoing since last year. So I'll be giving you that kind of information at the end of it. Okay, so if I can have the presentation. Thank you. So next slide, please. So some of you have already been posting on Slido and asking for a reference document. So here are the reference documents that you need. The first one is a general link to all the documents, legislation, work program, the call documents, grant agreements, guidance, templates, etc. This you will find in the portal. Then the next one is the model grant agreement for LIFE. So basically your grant agreement, what you have signed, all the articles are there. And this particular next one, the LIFE annotated grant agreement, of which there is a new version since April this year, this will be the equivalent of the Annex 10, if you kind of will, of the legacy LIFE program. So here you will find an annotated grant agreement. So basically comments, advice, guidance, explanation on each specific type of cost category that you have in your grant agreement. It is not complete. It's a living document. So please make sure you always have this latest version, or when there's a next one that you have that one. And please read it carefully. This is really a strong recommendation from our side in case you haven't done that yet. Next one is rules on legal entity validation and financial capacity assessment. I mean, you have been through this already, but in case there's new beneficiaries, for example, a new coordinator, then, and it's a private organization, then the financial capacity assessment needs to be done. You can go to the portal and also make a self-assessment if you're interested in that. And then something new, how to complete your financial statement, and a reference to the financial more detailed meeting that we will have later on this month on the 24th of October. Next slide. So here, the model grant agreement, what are the main financial parts and aspects that you need to really know? So the data sheet, a summary, the Annex 1, so here you have the detailed budget table. This you have, you've done it on the gap revision exercise. Your estimated budget is the Annex 2. Very important as well, if you have SME owners without a salary and volunteers in your grant, this is the information where you can get the unit costs and contributions. And then Annex 5 on certain specific rules for your project. Next slide. So here is just a summary of the data sheet. What is in there? Here it's really a summary of your action, when it starts, when it ends, who is participating, what is the grant amount, your funding, your co-funding rate, so the percentage of your funding, what are the budget categories which are eligible, in terms of reporting, payment, pre-financing, guarantee if applicable. If you need to submit a certificate on financial statements, so normally it's if you are requesting EU contribution equal or higher than 500,000. What happens if there are recovery orders? What happens if there's non-compliance? And as we just heard, also some specific rules on logos or also on record keeping. Next slide. So here, the type of participants that you have in your grant agreement. So very, very important, of course, the coordinator. The coordinator is our contact point. The coordinator is the one that signs the grant agreement. And of course, there's a lot of responsibilities for the coordinator. And here again, we would really strongly emphasize on the financial aspect. If possible, if the coordinator could also provide some guidance on reporting, of course, also checking what are the main rules, etc. So the coordinator is really a very important part in the action, of course. Then the beneficiaries also participating in the action, also signing. Affiliated entities, they have similar rights and obligations to the beneficiaries. However, they do not sign the grant agreement. But of course, the beneficiary to whom they are linked, either legally or capital terms, is responsible for them. Associated partners, this is something new in the new program. They will be participating in the action because they have something to bring. They're important or they want to bring some kind of expertise, but they do not charge any costs and they do not claim any type of contribution. They do also not sign the grant agreement. Then you have other actors, other types of actors in your action. If you have subcontracting, well, then you will have subcontractors. They will be providing you with a service for which you will be paying. You might also have in-kind contributions. However, these are not taken into consideration in the budget. So the cost or the income is not eligible. And you might also have, if your call has allowed this, third parties who will be receiving financial support, but only if foreseen in the call in your grant agreement. Next slide, please. So here is just a table. I'm not going to go into this. This is more for your reference, and you will see that this is also coming from the annotated grant agreement. This is just a summary of who works in what can be eligible, where are they indicated, and what are the conditions for their participation. Next slide, please. So here, very important article, which you will find also in the model grant agreement and also in the annotated grant agreement. You will find a lot of explanations on what does this mean? What does it mean incurred by the beneficiary or its affiliated entities? It means that a certain cost has really happened. It is in the accounting records. It has been paid, so it's a real cost, and it has to be incurred either by the beneficiary or affiliated entities which are in the grant agreement. If they're not in the grant agreement, well, then it's considered not incurred by this action. Incurred during the duration of the project. Here, there are some exceptions, for example, the final reporting, the audit report, because of course they will happen after the project has ended, but there's always a bit of confusion incurred during the duration. It is not corrected with payment. Of course, you need to pay for the costs. However, a cost is considered incurred when, for example, a certain work is done, when a certain service is delivered, or when a certain consumable is brought to your premises, when it's delivered to you. It has to be foreseen, so it has to be in one of the budget categories in your grant agreement, either in Annex 2 or Annex 1 detailed budget. It needs to be connected to the action and necessary for its implementation, identifiable and verifiable, so what I said before, so recorded in the accounts of the beneficiary, comply with all national laws on taxes, labor, social security, and not to be neglected, reasonable, justified, and complied with the sound financial management. So if we find that a cost is accessible, not justified, we reserve the right to reject it. Next slide, please. So here also for unit costs and flat rate, in case you have this in your action. So it has to be declared in the correct budget category related to the period of the action. Sometimes you need, for accruals, you need to calculate the pro rata. So the costs to which the flat rate is applied, of course, they need to be eligible. This is particularly for the indirect costs of 7%. The unit costs, they have to be necessary for the implementation. And in particular, if you have volunteers or SME owners without a salary, the way that the number of the units are calculated, this needs to be identifiable and verifiable, and in particular supported by records and documentations. And here, please see Annex 2A for further guidance. Next slide, please. So here's just an example of how a budget looks like. So here on the left, you have the personal costs, all the different types of personal costs you might have, then subcontracting, purchase of costs, travel, subsistence, equipment, other goods, works and services, other categories, if foreseen in your call, financial support, third parties, land purchased, and then of course, indirect costs. And then how we calculate the maximum EU contribution that you can receive in your grant. Next slide, please. So here what we have just seen, the direct costs. So direct costs are the costs that are directly related to your action, and they are necessary. Indirect costs are typically those that you calculate by applying a percentage. And here you should not include these in the direct costs. Here are the types of direct costs that you can find in your grant, and we will be going through each one of them, in particular with the personal costs. Next slide, please. So I will start with the personal costs, and these are the category A1, employees or equivalent. This is the typical staff costs that you will have, the most common, and they are calculated by what? Of course, the salaries, social security contributions, taxes, and any other costs which are linked to your remuneration if they are foreseen in national law, employment contract, and also your usual practice. And here already a hint of the information that you will be getting in our meeting of the 24th of October. Here is a big change on the calculation of the staff costs and also how you report them. So the way they are calculated is this. This is coming from the annotated grant agreement, in case you haven't seen it before. So the personal costs are calculated for each person for the reporting period. So the recommendation that it's by reporting period and no longer by years. Okay, you can claim a maximum of 215 day equivalents, and the way they are calculated is indicated there, divided by 12, multiplied by the number of months within your reporting period, and then multiplied by the working factor, either 1 for full-time or 0.5 for 50%, and then multiplied by the daily rate. Here, the daily rate calculation has also changed. How is it done? You take the actual personal costs during the months within that reporting period, and you divide by what we have just calculated, the day equivalents. So sorry to go so detailed here, but we really want to make sure that you are aware. This has changed and you really need to take this into consideration. Next slide, please. Here is the next two categories that we have of personal costs. So either natural persons, and these will be persons who work under a direct contract or an employment contract, and seconded persons. Seconded persons, they will be working for you. They are coming from a third party, but you will be paying them. So what are the conditions? They work under similar conditions to those of your employees. So the way the work is organized, the tasks performed, and also the premises. For example, teleworking. If your employees cannot telework, seconded persons can also not telework. If they are teleworking 2 days a week, well, then seconded persons can telework also 2 days a week, not more nor less. So they really need to be similar. The result of this work needs to belong to the beneficiary unless it has been agreed otherwise with you. And it's calculated on the basis of the actual contract or secondment rate. And of course, it cannot be significantly different than to the payment you are providing to your employees. Next slide, please. So here, the next two categories, A4, A5. So SME owners or natural persons, sole traders, and SME owners not receiving a salary. Here is just how it's calculated. So it's a formula indicated there, and then you need to multiply by the country-specific correction. This information you will have in A2. So this is this correction coefficient. And then for volunteers, so volunteers are people that work for free in your organization. So there's no payment. You're not going to transfer them anything. They're not going to be paid. It's not compulsory. And there are some conditions for their participation if this is allowed in your call text, of course. So maximum 50% of the total project costs and contributions. Maximum EU contribution cannot be higher than the total eligible costs without volunteers. Here, I suggest you take an Excel and you do some formulas, because this phrase is very difficult to get a grip on. So just do that. In any case, for your grant, this has been verified, so it should be okay. And at reporting stage, you cannot exceed the maximum amount for volunteers for each beneficiary, which was already set out in your Annex 2 upon the grant agreement signature. Next slide, please. So here we have left the personal costs. We are entering now another type of cost, which is subcontracting. So if you consider that there are some expertise that you do not have, or that you want to hire another company or an expert to do this actions, this is of course allowed. There are certain conditions. They need to comply with the conditions that I have just mentioned some slides ago. They need to comply with the beneficiary's usual purchasing practices. So you need to ensure best value for money, if appropriate, the lowest price, and no conflict of interests. It covers normally what we consider action tasks. It cannot include for the coordinator the subcontracting of the project management of this action. It can only cover a limited part of the action unless this has been properly justified. So normally we take the reference of 30%. And if you are a contracting authority, then this means that you also need to comply with EU directives, national law on public procurement. Next slide, please. Another category of costs, purchase costs, travel and subsistence. These you need to report in line with your usual practices. And then another type, equipment. Here you can have two options. Either your call indicates that only the depreciation of equipment is foreseen, which is the case of the set calls, or you have the other option, which is a full cost, and you can list the equipment that you're going to depreciate. So two options possible. If we go to the depreciation of costs, so either in the set calls or that you need to list the equipment, SAP, SIP, or SNAPS actions, what are the conditions for them to be considered eligible? They actually need to be incurred, written off in accordance with international accounting standards and your usual accounting practices. It can only be the portion of the cost that corresponds to the actual use rate in the action and in the reporting period. And of course, if the cost for renting or leasing is what you prefer instead of purchasing and then depreciating the equipment, they cannot exceed the depreciation costs of similar equipment. Next slide, please. So here is then what you can have in the standard action projects, strategic nature projects or strategic integrated projects, which is the full cost. So here you need to check the Annex 5 for the durability. So they need to be purchased or developed specifically for your action, and you need to commit to use and maintain them after the end of the action for activities pursuing the action's objectives for at least 5 years or until the end of its economic lifespan. Of course, the cost needs to be recorded in your accounting system in the fixed asset account in compliance, again, with international accounting standards and your own usual accounting practices. Next slide, please. Other goods, works and services. So again, these are costs that need to be incurred. So please remember all the criteria that we seen some slides ago. What does it include? Consumables, supplies, promotion, dissemination, protection of results, translations, publication, the certification on financial statements and financial guarantees if these are required by the agreement. Here there is sometimes some confusion on gray areas between subcontracting and this area. So subcontracting is really for action tasks, so main tasks. And if you're really delegating, if you will, if you're really subcontracting for a whole task, then it's subcontracting. Otherwise, you're purchasing a service or good or works, and you should declare it here. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So another type of cost, financial support to third parties. So not all the calls will allow this. For example, for the set call, this is not foreseen, not allowed. But for other calls, there is. So please check your grant agreement. So what is it? It's a form of grants, prizes, or similar forms of support. They are eligible if so in line with the call conditions. So there is a maximum for action, so at the global level or per third party. They need to fulfill the general eligibility conditions calculated on the basis of costs which were actually incurred, and the conditions need to be already described in Annex 1 of your grant agreement. So you really need to ensure that the objective and that there is a transparent selection procedure already described in Annex 1. Next slide, please. So some of the conditions for grants, the amount per third party, and what is the criteria that you will be using to calculate this amount, the different types of activities that can qualify for this, and the persons or categories of persons that can be supported, and of course, criteria and procedures for providing this financial support. If it's a prize, then what are the eligibility and award criteria? What is the amount of the prize and what are the payment arrangements? This has already been included in your Annex 1, and this is what you need to follow in order for these costs to be considered eligible. Next slide, please. So land purchase, this is also another type of cost category that you might have. It is also foreseen, so eligible if foreseen in the call text. It's from private entities. It includes the long term of lease of land or one-off compensation for land use rights. And it's eligible, well, if it's in the call conditions, fulfills again the general eligibility conditions we've seen, based on costs actually incurred, and they need to be compliant with land purchase criteria. Next slide, please. So here we have put some slides. They are in gray, so I will not go into details, but we wanted you to have this information. However, in order to ensure that we have enough time for your questions, we won't go in through them. So next slide, please. And again, next slide, please. So indirect costs, what are they? They are foreseen in the calls. Normally, it's a 7% rate. The calculation should be automated and therefore already pre-filled in the IT system. However, they can be changed. For example, if you have an operating grant and you don't have a separation in the accounting system that you can demonstrate that you are not covering any costs which are already covered in the action grant, then you can reduce the 7% rate. Next slide, please. So we've talked a lot about what are the eligible costs, but we also need to know what is not eligible. So here is some examples. Again, you can see in-kind contributions, deductible or refundable VAT, costs incurred after or before the start of the action, or if it's suspended, some dividends, etc. Next slide, please. Also, for example, in order to avoid double funding, of course, you cannot claim a cost twice. So if you are receiving funding for some cost from the LIFE program, you cannot receive for the same cost another funding. That's why it is very important in your accounting that you don't report the costs through who is funding, but who is the action? What action is covering that cost? So, for example, you should put a cost in your accounting according to the LIFE action and not according to who is funding, in case you have another co-financer. What is also not eligible, costs or contributions for staff of a national administration for activities which are already part of this administration, normal activities. Costs and contributions, especially for travel and subsistence for us, staff or representatives of EU institutions, bodies, or agencies, and of course, costs which are specifically indicating as not eligible in a call. Next slide, please. So here, this has already been covered by the presentation from Julia and the colleagues. So basically, please remember to comply with the EU funding visibility included in Annex 5. Next slide, please. So also general information and obligations. Please provide us always information when we are requesting for verification of the eligibility of the costs, your implementation and compliance with any obligations in the grant agreement. If your organization has changed name, address, legal representative, etc., legal status as well, please keep the participant register data updated. And please always inform us of events and circumstances which impact the action. They might need an amendment. So tomorrow we will be seeing the amendments, and this is something that you need to keep in mind. If something happens, please inform us. Next slide, please. Record keeping, so very important. I've seen already some requests to have some Excel sheets and some registration. So here is the article that you need to see both in your grant agreement and also in the annotated grant agreement. Please, there's a lot of information there. Here is just a quick summary of what you will find there. So for actual costs, you need to keep the records supporting documents that prove that a cost has been incurred. So this can be contracts, subcontracts, invoices. So please keep them. For us, it is very important that we are able to directly reconciliate the amounts that you have recorded in your accounts with the amounts that you have declared in your reporting. So for the flat rate, of course, you need to keep the records to prove the eligibility of the costs on the contribution of the flat rate level. Unit costs also particularly on the proof of the number of units that you will claim. For example, if an SME owner is participating one day to one of the conferences, then keep records of their participation. It's a proof that you have that this person has provided 1 unit of work for your action. For personal costs, again, there are changes, and there are basically 2 methods now of making the registration. Either you will take the template that you will find in the funding portal, which is a monthly registration. Again, we will be going into more details in our presentation on the 24th of October. And so you can take this template and do a monthly registration, or you can keep the method that you have if you prefer. If it's a reliable also time recording system in place, also providing the same information that you would find in the monthly registration template. Of course, it's very important that the employee and the supervisor date and sign preferably every month at least this registration, unless you have another reliable and verifiable time recording system. So these documents, of course, need to be made available in context of checks, reviews, audits, investigations, etc. Next slide, please. So the reporting. So you have basically 2 types of reporting, and this will be coming up soon. So continuous reporting, this is the progress of the action, and this is done in the portal. This is more on the technical side, and my colleague Nadia will be talking about this tomorrow. Then you have the periodic reporting, which is connected to the payment claims. So you need to provide reports according to the schedule which is indicated in the data sheet. So normally within 60 days after the end of the reporting period, please check. Anyway, you will be notified by the system when this comes up. And the technical part includes an overview of the action implementation, and it must be using the template available in the portal. For us on the technical side, so if you have an additional pre-financing report coming up, you will need to include a statement of how much you have used of the previous pre-financing payment. So you will introduce this amount in the system. And please, 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 it is not the costs which are incurred that you need to indicate. It is the corresponding EU funding. So you take the costs that you have incurred, you multiply by the co-funding rate, I don't know, 60%, 95% in the case of SET, and that you get the amount consumed, and this is the amount that you need to indicate in the system. Next slide, please. So here, in case of final payments, it's a little bit more complex in comparison with the additional pre-financing, where there aren't really any financial reports. Here upon the final payments or interim payments for the strategic actions, you need to provide financial statements to indicate at individual and consolidated level for all the beneficiaries and the affiliated entities as well. They need to include the costs or any revenues of the actions. You will find the template in the portal, and you will be requested to fill in the use of resources. So compared to the past, not all the costs will be reported. You will need to provide details for major costs, particularly for the purchase costs category. You will need to indicate the amounts or the costs that go 15% higher than the claimed personal costs. Don't worry, this is indicated in the template, so you don't need to memorize this straight away, but just retain 15% higher than the personal costs, and you will start with the most expensive costs coming down to cover this 15% threshold. So don't worry, we will be covering this later on the 24th of October meeting. Then you will need to provide the certificate on the financial statements if you are requesting equal or higher than 500,000 per beneficiary. So again, this is not costs, this is EU contribution. And the financial statements are signed in the system. Next slide, please. Just a quick information on the currency reporting. So if your accountancy is in euro, if you incur any costs in a currency which is not the euro, please just use your usual accounting practices. If, on the other hand, your accountancy is not in euro, then please use this link to make your conversions. And normally the language of reporting is the language of the grant agreement, which is English. And of course, the translation costs for any reports are eligible. Next slide, please. So here is just a print screen of what the model of the financial statement will look like. You will see that the structure is exactly the same as the Annex 2. So starting with personal costs, subcontracting, purchase of costs, and other cost categories. Next slide, please. And here is just a picture of what the report of use of resources looks like. And here at the bottom part, purchase costs, you will see the indication start with the most expensive down to the 15% threshold. So there you have the information that you need to be able to fill this in correctly. Next slide, please. So payments will be done in euro in the bank account that you have indicated in the grant agreement. Please remember, as a coordinator, that you need to distribute both the pre-financing and the payments without any unjustified delay. What are the payment arrangements normally foreseen? Well, first you get a first pre-financing, which is normally at 30%. Then you get a further pre-financing at 50%, or there is a split. And then at the end, you get the rest around 20% maximum normally. So the amount due for the pre-financing and further pre-financings, we have already indicated to you that you need to indicate the amount that you have consumed of the previous pre-financing. And in the case that is less than 70%, then we will reduce the amount which is foreseen in your grant agreement. So this we will also explain later on in the 24th of October meeting. The amount to do for the final pre-financings, of course, we take the costs that have been incurred, we multiply by the co-funding rate, minus any profit, and of course we deduct the pre-financings already paid. Please note that there might be some ex post audits which might reduce, or there might also be some additional pre-financings. Next slide, please. So here we come to some guidance. Really from the beginning, please make sure that you understand which costs are eligible. Check your grant agreement, the data sheet, and check what is allowed, what is not allowed. Make sure that in your accountancy, you are allocating the costs for this action, not according to who is funding the cost. This is very important. You need to use adequate tools and procedures to track and keep appropriate level of recording for all the costs. And here, just another summary of the personal costs. So either using method A or method B. Follow your usual accounting practices and rules, particularly for travel, subsistence, depreciation. Please make sure that you are aware of your procurement procedures and your obligations, including the LIFE logo, of course, and if applicable, enter the data in the land purchase database. Next slide, please. In terms of guidance and also on lessons learned, here we have developed a financial reporting checklist for beneficiaries. This is on our website on the LIFE program section, reporting contract and financial aspects, to be more exact. So this is a file where you will get information on each cost and where you can get what articles are corresponding to that. So that's a very good start on giving you some guidance. And then also, like I said in the beginning, we have already received some final payment claims and also some additional pre-financing requests. And we have noticed that a lot of projects have not yet grasped that we have a different way of calculating and reporting personal costs. So please go to the annotated grant agreement and pay attention to these aspects that are indicated here. So ensure a correct method to calculate the daily rate and the number of daily rates equivalents that you can declare, maximum 215 per year. The working time factor needs to be taken into consideration. Sick and parental leave cannot be included in the 215 days. So this is also something new. We have developed a calculation sheet. I've seen that some people already in the slide have been asking for this. For the moment, we have only for A1 employees, but we have already enlarged and we are just finalizing the table. Hopefully for the end of the month, this will be ready and we will be making it available to you. And this will enable you to really check, am I calculating this correctly or not? Please make sure that your staff is allocated or there's a direct link to the action in your accounting system. You have a proper registration system for the personnel that it's stated and signed per month by the person, the employee, and also the supervisor. And this is applicable to all those working in the action, including those that are working full-time. And also a quick word on the accruals. So if you have a lump sum, for example, a compensation because somebody will stop working in your organization, of course, you can only calculate this pro rata according to the reporting period that you are declaring. So again, we will go into more details, but please already make some time to go and read about this so that you get it right. Next slide, please. So again, this is in gray. This is just a summary of other articles that are also important and a quick summary for you for your convenience so that you read at your ease. For the sake of time, I will not go through them. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So these are just on terminations, etc. And yeah, this is just how to get in touch with us. And with this, if you go to the next slide, you can put some more questions in the Slido. And I thank you very much for your attention. And I hope I have been clear. And we will then start taking on some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Licinia. Anne is also joining us to answer the questions. There are a lot of questions there. It's approximately 75. You will not manage to answer all of them, but you know that you will answer a lot of them because you are very fast and professional in doing this. Just for the people that are asking the question, as Licinia said several times, there is a very focused question on financial administrative matters on the 24th. So what we will do with the question that we will not answer, we will actually keep them, we will share with the financial colleagues, and perhaps they could also reflect on the question in view of the session. So, yeah, now please focus on liking the questions that are there, so you might get a chance to get a reply. And Anne and Licinia, I'll leave it to you to handle this. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Julia. Maybe just to mention that I saw that there were already a lot of questions regarding general reporting issues, amendments, and so on. So I just want to inform you that tomorrow there are special sessions on that. So I will try to focus on the the real financial questions. So first one is the declaration. Oops, that one has moved. It was a question with regard to time registration. Time registration is obligatory, even if a person works 100% of his time on the grant agreement. Registration is compulsory, and there is a template available. It's a monthly template where the number of days that the person worked on the action or on the project need to be mentioned. It is not compulsory. You can use your own electronic timesheet system or your own paper timesheet system. But in order to make sure that it's compliant with the rules, you should observe in Article 20, record keeping, the rules that are specified there. So in case that you do not have a system yet, I would recommend that you use a template that is available, as this will be the easiest. I also noticed that there was a question with regard to projects that are currently under the old program, and of course where they also need to register their time. Then I would suggest use the timesheets that you have under the old program, as they have the overview of all the time that was spent. In case you don't and you want to use the template that is available on the portal for the project itself, then you will need to make sure that the two timesheets are in line, so that you have correct time registration taken over in the one that is available on our portal. Then I think that one I answered. The link to the template, it is in the presentation. You will see that there is a general link in the presentation that Licinia gave, where you can access all the information, all the different documents, templates, and so on related to the LIFE call. You just need to make sure that you search on the LIFE program. If a beneficiary has changed the registered office after the signing of the grant agreement, is it necessary to make changes to the grant agreement? Well, any change to beneficiary information, you will need to update the information in the participant identification code. So you will need to go to the portal and do this change yourself. So it is all changes in legal entities. Tomorrow there is also a session on the amendments, and there also you can ask other questions with regard to that if you want. Yes, the annotated grant agreement document that is currently posted in the portal, as Licinia mentioned, it is a draft, it's a living document, so it's not yet fully complete. There will be sections that will be added later on, and also additional guidance might be added later on. Then next. Yeah,
let's focus on the question.
We already mentioned.
Yes. Yeah, the question that you see above, because these are the ones that I'm the most like. So is there a deadline to sign the consortium?
Is there a deadline to sign the consortium agreement? Well, in fact, the consortium agreement normally should already have been in place at the time that you sign the grant agreement. So if you have not yet done it, I would say do it as soon as you can, because you will have to report on the fact that it has been signed. For the other things, I think it's not really financial, so I will, the declaration of working hours I already mentioned. Recording will be available. What to do if we need some other goods or service not foreseen in the grant agreement, but needed during the project implementation? How do we communicate this? Well, you will have some reporting in general where you can also communicate this. And tomorrow in the session of the amendments, further information will be delivered. So you can, I would say, follow that one as well. Budget shifts can be done. There is no particular percentage. Of course, you cannot substantially change your action. So there are some limitations, but in principle, there is no percentage limited for budget shifts. There are certain cost categories that you cannot touch without an amendment. For example, the volunteer costs. So for those, you will need to request an amendment if you did not foresee these costs. The first one I already answered. Is there a format for calculating the personal costs? Well, normally there should be a wizard in the system, but it's not yet available. Therefore, we have developed this tool ourselves to help you calculate the cost. We will present it in the next session on the 24th of October. We have already a tool that is available on our website, but it's only for the personal cost, for employee cost. But now we will have one that includes all different type of costs. So I would say go to the session on the 24th and we will explain you a bit how it works. Examples on the salary calculations. There are some in the annotated grant agreement, which you can already have a look at, but we will also take some examples that we will encode into this tool that we have created. We will try to put there all the examples that are in the annotated grant agreement so you can see how it works. And we already tested it, so in principle, you can use it and it will work. How to report volunteer work or volunteer contracts? Well, normally you have to have this cost foreseen in your budget, as already mentioned, otherwise you need an amendment. The volunteers will need to keep track of their time. It is not necessary to have a very complex time registration system for them, but you could potentially use the same as you would use for your normal staff, but at least the days or half days that they have worked, they should sign this off. So there should be a list or a document containing the number of days that they worked, and of course their approval and the approval of the person that supervised them. So that, because it will serve as proof for the number of days that you will declare. Then, well, as coordinator, we need to ask and to keep in record all financial documents of the partners. Well, normally beneficiaries will report their costs in the tool, in the reporting tool. So every beneficiary will keep their own documentation in case there are audits, because they might happen as well on the side of the other beneficiaries, not necessarily only the coordinator. And then, of course, the coordinator will have to report, for example, at the time of the further pre-financings, how much the consortium has already incurred. So there should be some reporting from beneficiaries towards the coordinator, so the coordinator can keep track. But the coordinator is not requested to keep copies of all the invoices and so on. So this is the responsibility of the each beneficiary. The cost of travel for the volunteers are eligible. Yes, this is not covered by the flat rate, the unit cost for the volunteer. This is just a cost that can be submitted in the cost category travel cost. We plan to add new associated partners to our recently started LIFE project. Yes, this will require an amendment. Is the coordinator allowed to reduce the amount of the payment to a ceiling such as 90% to ensure proper work for partners and pay the rest with final payment? Well, the thing is that we normally pay the pre-financings, and without any unjustified delay, the coordinator should transfer these funds to the different beneficiaries. Of course, if in your consortium agreement you agree that there will certain parts be transferred later and everybody agrees to that, then this is fine. However, partners need of course to agree with that, because the idea is that all beneficiaries have a float to work with. So in principle, for most of the grants, we will pay everything through pre-financings and then a final payment at the end. For some of the grants, it depends on the call, we will have interim payments where we recognize the cost already at the time that we do the payment. Then timesheets. Are people accounted for full-time exempted? No, as I said, everybody will need to fill the timesheets. An example to understand the difference between subcontracting and other goods and services. Well, in any case, subcontracting is only for when you outsource part of the activities to a service provider. And if it is put in it is part of the action, part of an action or a full action that is outsourced. So for example, if you organize an event through a service provider, you organize everything through the service provider, and this is an action in your project, then it will be subcontracting. If you order the room, you order the catering, everything is separately, then you have it under the other goods and services. If you would just hire a person to an IT consultant to help you with some IT issues, then normally this would figure under the IT, under the services, other goods and services. If you hire a person to deliver part of an action and really provide a deliverable in that sense, then it would of course be under the subcontracting. I would say if you have a doubt and you're not sure, and the service has been identified as part of an action or an action in your grant agreement, and you put it under the subcontracting. How to manage a cost for the project that is not under cost category in the grant agreement. Well, as I said, you can also, if there are changes to your budget and so on, you can also report if these are substantial costs. You can report this through the reporting itself. Of course, then you run the risk if it is not sure that this cost can be eligible from a technical point of view, then it would be wiser to check this upfront. But normally you can do this by putting this in your reporting. Reporting periods are fixed in your grant agreement. So this is predefined. This can be a period of 18 months. It can be 12 months. It does not necessarily is 1 year. It is not from January till December. So the reporting periods, they are fixed and the schedule is in your grant agreement. We have co-financers, but they were not mentioned in the grant agreement. Did they fit into associated beneficiaries category where we should have to include them? No. Co-financers, they are not included in the grant agreement. For some of the calls, you will have to sign before the gap, but I mean, you all passed already that stage. You had to sign some certificate or a document where the co-financers say that they will co-finance the project, but it is not in the budget table anymore. It's not in your grant agreement. So there is nothing to report this at the end. External audit, it is necessary as of 500,000 euros. So if you have more than 500,000 euros per beneficiary or affiliated entity, you will need to submit an audit certificate. It is per beneficiary. Do you provide a template for the consortium agreement? No, we don't, but there is some guidance in Article 7. You can there see what type of information should be figuring in your consortium agreement. You can also inspire from the previous program that we had, but for the new program, no consortium agreement, no template, and it's not foreseen that we will put it there. For the threshold of CFS, I have checked this again in the grant agreement. It just says that it is contribution versus costs. So it doesn't specify that it is direct or indirect cost. So for now, we have always assumed that this is 500,000 euro EU contribution per beneficiary, everything included. But we will have maybe another check on that one. To see if it would only cover the direct costs. But for now, I think it covers everything. Can we adapt our budget if we find volunteers during the project duration? As I mentioned, this will involve an amendment. So there you will need to see how many days and then ask an update of the budget. Is it okay to request funding for administrative staff of the coordinator, beneficiary supporting financial management? Normally, this is allowed. For example, a financial manager to follow up on all the costs and so on, and the cost reporting, normally we allow this. If we convert currencies at rates provided by our national bank, do we need to make these additional conversions at ECB rates? So it all depends if you have accounts in euro or not. If you have accounts in euro, then you do not have to follow these ECB rates. You take what is in your accounting system. If you have accounts in other currencies than euro, you will need to follow the ECB rates. Is it mandatory that we as coordinators sign the consortium agreement before we forward the first financing? Well, I already mentioned in principle, we would expect that the consortium agreement was already signed at the time that you signed the grant agreement. So I would recommend that you, in order to make sure that you agree with your partners, the rules, of course, they cannot go against our grant agreement, that you do this as quickly as possible. In case the cost of a staff changes in the middle of the reporting period, is the reportable cost to be calculated separately for each of them? No. So for the reporting period, you will take the entire salary cost of this person as a basis. So you can see this also in the annotated grant agreement. Where can we ask financial questions by mail during the project? Well, I think that there is a help desk foreseen. I don't have the information here, but maybe tomorrow with the reporting and so on, this question, maybe ask it again, or we can take note and we will inform you about this because I don't know exactly where to send it. Do associated partners need to include costs in the project budget at the proposal stage? If they do, it is all ineligible cost, of course, and they don't need to declare their cost afterwards. About periodic reporting, could Word templates be made available to coordinators? Until now, we could find PDF templates that are not easy to use. So for the reporting, also tomorrow, I would ask these questions there. Okay, the beneficiaries, if they don't want to have an advance payment in the beginning, is it okay? So if this is agreed with all the beneficiaries and you have this in your consortium agreement, then I think it is fine. If we have not foreseen unit costs in the grant agreement, can we still make use of them? As I mentioned, like for volunteers, you will need an amendment to change that. Should procurement procedures in case of non-EU members partners, I'm looking for this. Should procurement in case of non-EU member partner be implemented by EU regulation or national regulation? Well, the procurement procedures to be followed are, it depends. If it is a public entity, then the public procurement rules need to be followed. If it is a private entity, then the private entities' internal rules can be followed as long as they ensure value for money and no conflict of interest. If we would hire someone via an agency that is similar to a foreign loan company, local expert, what cost category is it? I'm not sure if you mean like interim staff that is hired through an interim agency. Well, normally that is procurement, so purchase of services. This is not, normally it's not subcontracting. Timesheets, should the days worked for each work package also be reported in the subdivision of work package? Well, you will need to keep somehow track of what you spend per work package, but it's not normally in the timesheets. In case you don't keep track of that specifically in the timesheets, you could also award these days based on, for example, you know that a certain person only works in work package 2, then you can allocate all this work immediately to work package 2. But there is no reporting in the timesheets. But of course, if you want, you can indicate it because you will need it later on. Can we, as coordinator, decide to adjust the percentage of payments between the other beneficiaries? As I mentioned, this is something for the consortium agreement. So if you all agree on that, it's fine, as long as everybody has a certain float to work with and can pre-finance the cost. External hired personnel is always more expensive than employees. The rules ask for similar conditions. So indeed, there should be it should not be so much more expensive. And then we are not talking for staff or employees. You don't only see at what you pay the person, but it's the total staff cost for the person that is compared to the total cost for hiring the external personnel. So of course, in some cases it's a bit higher, but if it is significantly higher, then you cannot claim this under natural persons. Then you will have to put this under either services, purchase services, or you need to put it under subcontracting, depending what is the situation. Can the eligible cost not covered by the LIFE grant be financed by other EU programs? For which sub-program is this possible? For the current ones, this is not possible. For the ones that are there, this is not foreseen. How do beneficiaries report their cost to the coordinator for periodic reporting? I think that this is automatically entered into the system. So every beneficiary normally enters his own costs. And the beneficiary will enter the cost of the affiliated entity because they will not have access. Okay, the link for the template for personal costs method A, there is currently already a version on our website under the reporting, but wait for the new template because it is it will be available by the 24th of October, and it is really taking into account all different type of costs, which is much better. Is an amendment needed if many staff members change between A2 and A1? In principle, we don't need an amendment for that, but you may want to say something in your technical report where there is a section on budget changes. Equipment depreciation, is the depreciation percentage under national law still applicable? Well, you will have to apply the national depreciation rules and your internal rules with regard to depreciation. If you need to depreciate, it depends on the call, because for some of the calls there is not necessarily depreciation, but you can claim the full cost of equipment. So this is something that you will need to see, and if you can, of course, follow the rules with regard to the durability clause. This is the Annex 5 of the grant agreement where you will find this clause. The reporting templates, you will see Licinia's presentation. You have this list with all the links, and there you will find, if you have the general link, you will see that you will first have the funding and tender portal, then how to participate, and then you have reference documents. You just need to make sure you select the LIFE program. And under the reference documents, you will have guidance, templates and forms, and you will find a lot of information there. So everything is in the
It's the first link in the presentation, in the reference documents.
On time recording, we usually record working time per hour within timesheet signed monthly or weekly. Is this okay, or does working time need to be recorded in days? So you can still use the hours, but you will need to convert them to days. And for that, you should look at Article 20, that is record keeping. And there it explains clearly how to translate your hours into days. No, this with regard to this document for personal costs that states a standard percentage of working time for the employee on the LIFE project. This doesn't. This is no longer valid for the new program. You will need to put in place timesheets. Can you subcontract the same company for more than one task? Yes, but please take into account that you will need to observe your procurement rules. So if certain services or services combined with the purchase of some materials, if this can be done by the same subcontractor, maybe you should then also in some cases have a call for tender grouping all these things in different lots or so. So this you will have to see with your own procurement rules and making sure it's value for money. But you need, you cannot, if you have a subcontract in place and then you need other services, you cannot just include them in your subcontract. You need to make sure that you have some procurement procedure following that. Or will individual financial table be provided, recording costs per category? No, we will not have this, but I think in the next session that we will have on the 24th, we will inform you also that it is best to keep probably an overview in Excel with all your costs for the reporting, because as Licinia already said, you don't need to report on every cost. It will depend on 15% of your staff costs for certain categories. You don't need to make an amendment to update travel budget. There is some budget flexibility, so that is not really needed. Is it possible to report in the personal cost persons? Oops, it has gone.
Answer is no. You have an invoice, so you can just receive the invoice, and this will be under purchase of services.
Okay. Do we have to report our work hours detailed per work? I think I already mentioned this. So best is to keep track of the hours or the days spent per work package, but it doesn't need to be in the timesheets. Does our internal accounting system need to show cost divided by project code? Well, I think that you need to be able to link the costs with the project. So I would say that having a project code in your accounting system would be mandatory to do this, so to make the link. So I would really recommend to have this. What are the requirements for other reliable time recording system, for example, for a completely digital system? There is some guidance in the Article 20. Look at the annotated grant agreement. It is very complete, so have a look there and just make sure that you comply with that. Entry into force date. The entry into force date, this is in principle the date when both parties, CINEA and the coordinator, sign the grant agreement. The project starting date can be different, so you will find it in the data sheet of your grant agreement. So it's at the beginning of your grant agreement. If a beneficiary prefers to fund its own actions and rejects LIFE funding, is it possible that it still counts as a beneficiary and not change to associated partner? Well, of course, I think this can always be possible, because but then he has to report cost. So if you are a beneficiary, you're required to do the financial reporting, and then the system will calculate the maximum amount of EU contribution that the beneficiary can have, and then the beneficiary can always put 0. They can change it. So this is a possibility. Is it possible that personal cost can be reallocated to material costs? So there is budget flexibility. As I mentioned, there are some conditions because of course you cannot change the scope of your project. You cannot make big changes to your project, but within what was agreed, you can of course do this. Then how to use the 215 calculation when along sick leave or maternity leave? Well, for the moment, they are not deducted. So this is not foreseen. So they just count. So you will always have to use the 215. Are the audits to be done for each periodic report? Well, normally if you have further pre-financing, additional pre-financings, then you will have this only with the periodic report that is there for the final payment. If you have interim payments, and this will then also be mentioned like that in your grant agreement, but this is normally only for the strategic projects and for some other type, some specific goals, but for the normal ones for environment, CQL, for nature, for SET, and for the CLIMA projects, the normal ones, you will have this only at the end of your project. Is it mandatory to have in invoices mentioned on the project name a code? Well, I would say that invoices should always refer somewhere to the project. So it is always easy in case you order services that in the order that you already refer to the project reference. So it always arrives on your invoice automatically. So this will just help. But in any case, if it is not there, then you need to make sure that there can be a link with that it is foreseen for the project, because if there is no link and it cannot be established that this invoice is really for the project, then the cost might not be eligible.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Anne and Licinia, I know that you would have liked to answer all the other questions, but I want to congratulate you because you actually answered all the questions with more than one like, and there were nearly 70, so 75 minutes of presentation and 70 questions answered. Quite a performance. And indeed, there will be time to deepening all of this on the session on the 24th of October. And I say it once again, the presentation that you share today will be on the platform, uploaded in the platform in the coming days. So I think it's a very good opportunity for projects to already digest the content, see what is there, and come even better prepared on the 24th. And there will also be questions for you. So thanks a lot for all the details. Let's book the 24th October in the agenda for a deepening session for all the project beneficiaries that are interested. Now it is time to stretch legs and get a coffee. We will be back with Silvia Donato and Ulrike Nuschla on Life Impact Key Performance Indicators at 11:45. Thanks once again, Anna and Licinia. It was a pleasure. Thank you all for staying with us, and we will be back at 11:45. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you could enjoy a little break because the next session with Silvia and Ulrike is also very full of content and a key session on Impact Key Performance Indicator. So Silvia Donato, she's already with us. I think Ulrike was there, so she will come soon. Hi, Silvia. Probably we can already, there is Ulrike, and we can already show your presentation, your slides, starting with slide 1. Yes. And remember to keep some time for question and answers. So
sure. So
the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Julia. And also my side, congratulations for being selected, and also welcome to the LIFE family. I think we can jump directly to the next slide, which gives you an overview of what we'll be discussing this morning on KPIs. So first, I'll just mention a few background information. Then explaining a bit what happens to the KPIs you have selected during the application and grant agreement signature stage, and how they connect to the next steps in the implementation. We will give some more details and information on the KPIs that are relevant for projects that are selected under the nature, circular economy and quality of life and climate goals. This includes governance, formation and Bauhaus projects. And Ulrike will then take the lead to illustrate the KPIs that are relevant for the project selected under the CET goal. So let's start with the background information. It's really some general features about the KPIs. If we can move to the next slide and then jump straight even to the next in the further one. What I will just mention is why do we have the KPIs and what they aim to capture. So we are, you have already had a first contact with the key performance project indicators at the moment in which you filled your application and then completed your grant agreement. They don't aim to capture all the impacts and results of your project, but they really capture the attention on some key aspects that are relevant at program level. This relevance at program level is of different kind. Some elements are more relevant to the feedback to the policy. Other are related to the measurement and assessment of the performance of the program. Some other indicators are more linked to some contractual obligations. The reason why we have this system is that we aim to capture with a high degree of confidence. So that's why we have a sort of standardized approach, the impacts that are achieved by LIFE projects. And the data that are submitted need to be, of course, consistent with the project impact and results. And the reason why, again, we have a sort of common approach is that we aim to have an aggregation of this data for the purposes I've mentioned before. Jumping to the next slide, I will put just a few words more on one of the purposes of the KPIs, namely the LIFE performance as a program. This is embedded in the regulation for this program, and in particular it states that the Commission shall report on progress on the LIFE program toward the achievement of the objectives set out in Article 3 based on the indicators contained in Annex 2. This annex in fact contains two different types of indicators. Some of them are horizontal indicators. Let's say they are more related to some outputs, the number of projects and so on by typology. And then there is a set of indicators that relate more to priority areas that are covered by the program. This information is collected at central level and is also reported annually in what is called the program statement and in the annual management and performance report, which are also available online on the site of DG Budget. The next slide, please. It's another important aspect to keep in mind when approaching this exercise is the quality of the data, because what we aim, exactly because of the different functions that this indicator have, we aim to have reliable information that can support also decision making and give information, high quality information on the performance of the program. For this reason, the KPI exercise is in reality a process that is backed by a validation process that has been set up to ensure, to the extent possible, that the data are reliable. And an important aspect is that it's important to set up an adequate monitoring framework that since the beginning of the project is able to capture all its dimensions. And for you, it will be also important to have always a proof of evidence of the data that you will submit. Next slide, please, is just to explain that we will now go a bit more into the details of what happened to the KPIs you have selected at proposal stage and how they moved on further in the journey once now that the project is starting its implementation. As you know, there were in the part C some common indicators. So these were in fact for all projects mandatory. And as you may recall, these were basically a set of questions related to like the catalytic effect, the governance, or the innovation of your project. And the replies that you gave in this case were mostly yes or no answers. Then for each call, and as you see, it's split here between the CET and then the nature, environment, climate, and also the strategic project. They have specific KPIs, and you have provided some information based on the impacts that you expect from your project. What happened now that the project started is that there is an automatic transfer of the information that you had in Part C inside the system, which is called the KPI web tool. This tool is a sort of container of the all indicators. And the part that is actually transferred is the one that considers the specific indicators for each of the various strands. So the common indicator, the yes and no answer, are not transferred into the system. The next slide, please. The part C, in fact, mirrors what is in the KPI web tool. However, what you will find now in the system is a more, let's say, comprehensive or articulated structure. Because on the one hand, you will have the possibility to further specify some of the impact you have declared at the moment of the start of the application and signature of the grant agreement. And you will be able to fine tune them based on more detailed information, and when the project advances, also based on the real impact achieved and the more concrete expectation about the continuation and sustainability. But also for the case of nature and circular economy, quality of life and climate, to give further details, also using descriptors, flags, and so on. As I mentioned earlier, aggregation is one of the objectives of this tool, and it's for this reason that you will be asked to report your impact using same units, providing the same name to a certain geographical location, and so on. So if you wonder why sometimes you are obliged to report in a certain way, please keep always in mind that we want to have the possibility to aggregate this data. The next slide, please. About when the reporting happens, as I said, you have a different opportunity throughout the implementation to give this information. The first, after the import, so in the system, you will see that there are some data already present, and this is because there has been the transfer of the data from Part C to the KPI web tool. This consists of your first submission into the web tool. However, you are requested by the 9th month of implementation of your project to fine-tune, to verify again the data that you have submitted, and to provide more details, as I also explained, especially for the nature, circular economy, quality of life, and climate projects. You will have a second appointment with the KPI web tool at the end of your project. It is only for some projects, and mostly it's for the strategic projects, so this doesn't concern you, that there is a mid-term submission of data, but this is due to the fact that these projects are very long in time. And occasionally, this might concern some of your projects as well. There could be an afterlife review of the KPIs, and certain data might be then reviewed after the end of your project. I will now move a bit more, if we can move to the next slide, to give you some more details and an overview of the indicators that are available for the project selected under the nature, circular economy, quality of life, and climate project. There are also some differences compared to CT, and that's why we are presenting them to you in a separate way. First of all, how do you report? As mentioned earlier, is the KPI web tool the container of all your data. So you will have to submit the updates of your expected results and impacts in the web tool. This exercise is carried out with the support of the external monitoring team. There will be a team of so-called KPI expert that will liaise with you in the first exercise, but again also at the end of the project to fill correctly the KPI web tool. Do not forget that you have also deliverables and the report as documents that serve to provide more information if you want to, for instance, explain deviations or even explain how certain values have been calculated in relation to the impact of your project. This flow that you see here, in fact, shows the workflow that follows the validation process of your KPIs. As you see, you are a bit in the middle of it. So I mentioned that you will be supported by the external monitoring team. What will happen before you, in fact, are able to submit your data is that the KPI expert and the monitor of your project will look at what is in the system and that was imported from e-grants as a KPI that were selected. They will look if there is some possible value that do not seem to match correctly the your project objectives or your expected results, or they might realize that there is something more that was not initially considered, and they might advise you then to add it or not. So they will perform, in fact, a review. This review in this phase, they will provide you also some guidance and comments on how to best fill the KPI indicator. When the workflow is then at your level, you will be, in fact, able to submit the data about your project. And after that, there will be still 3 steps that will confirm the correctness of your submission. When I mean correctness, is really about whether the values have been reported correctly in relation to the guidance that is provided for each of them, or if values are consistent with what was indicated in the proposal, or if the changes have been made, that these are explained, and so on. And these further checks are performed first by the KPI expert again. So it's the same person who will support you in the beginning before inputting the data, by your project advisor, and also by another role, which is the KPI verifier, that will close then the workflow and will kind of freeze your submission, that then will not be modifiable anymore until the next submission period is enabled. The next slide, please. What do you have to report? In fact, in the system itself, there are 8 mandatory indicators that are common to all projects. Further to that, at least for those projects that relate to nature, circular economy, quality of life, or climate, there will be at least, the system will ask you to select at least one indicator that relates to the area, so the priority area that is addressed by the project. This doesn't mean that there cannot be more, and most likely if you have selected in part C more than one environmental or climate indicator, you will see them also displaying in the system with the first import. The values that you will have to provide is like the one you had in Part C, so values at the beginning of the project, by project end, and also in the afterlife period, which can be 3 or 5 years after the project. Keeping in mind that for nature, forest, and climate adaptation projects, this period is always set by at 5 years, while for the other, there is a choice to be made in this regard. The next slide, please. This is an overview that all your projects will have to fill. Again, just to be clear, not for the city. I'm talking of all the other strands. I will not go one by one. Some of them are kind of straightforward, but I will spend just a few words on some of them. The project work area basically aim to capture information about where you will perform the activity. Please note that this is different from also the environmental or climate impact, or at least doesn't have to be necessarily the same. So it might differ or might be the same as the impact that you report in terms of environmental and climate benefit. This is because your actual work area may be smaller than the area where the impact is produced. So in this indicator, we really want to capture the location of your project activities. Another indicator to which I would like to draw your attention is 1.6 on the humans that are impacted by the project, because here you will be able to specify the impact that the different activities that your project implements has on people. So you will be able to detail, for instance, how many people are impacted in terms of increased capacity, or that have changed their behavior because of the project activities, or when it comes to the other environmental areas, specifically for impact that are related to projects, to the main environmental objective pursued by your project. One word of caution concerns the project that deal with climate adaptation, noise and air, because for these projects, they will not only have to report on this indicator, but the system will oblige them to report also on the corresponding environmental or climate adaptation indicators. I will just mention this again, so maybe you will understand a bit better. The very last comment is about the catalytic effect. As you see, there are two indicators, the 14.2 and the 14.3.1b, that relate to some of the catalytic effect of your project. I mentioned earlier that the yes or no answer in part C are not transferred to the system. But as you may recall, some of these questions were in fact related to the catalytic effect. So the system will ask you to at least provide then data in relation to the cumulative investment that are triggered and finance accessed. And this, I think it's an information that will come more clear by the time of your afterlife report, because there is where you usually also include some information about the additional funding and resources that will be available for you to continue the project. And the continuation is really about also the sustainability of your project. Do not forget that there are in the system also other indicators that relate to the catalytic effect. One is more thematic and one is more special. And in case in part C, you have replied yes to all of them, for instance, you should try to make sure that in the KPI web tool, you also provide an information in this regard. But again, the only two that are mandatory are these two that you see mentioned here. The next slide, please, because I will move now just quickly through the different sections that you will find in terms of the environmental and climate indicator that are in the system. let's start with water, which concern both fresh water and the marine environment. So you will find a series of indicators that allow you to report in terms of floods, drought, water scarcity, but also the various issues that affect the quality of freshwater bodies and groundwater bodies. The marine and coastal water, and as well an indicator that specifies the pressures or risks addressed. You may recall that I mentioned in the very beginning that the KPI serve to support inter alia the policy feedback and the decision making. There are a number of directives that are of direct relevance to these indicators, such as the Water Framework Directive, the Floods Directive, the Marine Strategy Framework Directive. But also, you may want to consider if, for instance, you're a nature project addressing rivers, to report on this indicator. For instance, you can capture the elements related to the connectivity. At least would relate to the objectives of reaching free flowing rivers that is in the biodiversity strategy for 2030. The next slide, please. Another thematic priority is soil. This is quite straightforward because there is only one indicator to be filled, which is the reduction of the land area with soil quality issue. You will be able to provide different information about the type of actions that you do, and through the various descriptors that are in the system. And I would like again to stress that this is not only relevant to projects that directly contribute to the EU soil strategy, but for instance, it could be of relevance also to the EU biodiversity strategy. And if some projects can measure the impact that they generate on soil, for instance, on soil biodiversity, this is an indicator that may capture well this information. The next slide, please. Here we are in a much broader group of indicators that are collected under the heading resource efficiency. And here there are a number of different policies. So this is not exhaustive list, but the main ones is the Clean Energy Package, the EU Forest Strategy, and the Waste Framework Directive. In fact, in this, under this group of indicators, you will be able to provide information on energy-related impacts in terms of the primary energy consumption reduction, but also the increase on primary renewable energy. And on the side of the forest, instead, it will be mostly about the support to sustainable forest management. Indicators that are maybe slightly a bit more complex or I shall say more articulated, in the sense that they will allow you to collect and they will gather different aspects of your actions, are the indicators that relate to waste management, circular economy, and the process efficiency. In the waste related one, what you will be asked to report is the type of waste, be it bio waste or end of life vehicles, for instance, and to indicate the quantity of waste in which the inappropriate management will be reduced. But this information will have to be further disaggregated. So please keep in mind that the system will require to break down this data based on the approach or method that is used to actually reduce the inappropriately managed waste, and for each of them the amount. So if your project, for instance, aims to reduce, in fact, the waste through I don't know, waste prevention or waste collection, you will have to give the total figure and then to break down this value through by the different descriptors that are available in the system. A similar approach is for the circular economy related one, and of course this is an indicator that is relevant to the circular economy action plan, to the waste framework directives. And again here you will be able to specify the reuse, the recycling and the recovery of products, material and substances, but you will be asked not only to give the total amount, but also to indicate which part of this cannot be used, so will become waste, and the parts that will be lost. Next slide, please. So here we move to another set of indicators. This is more about there is the one that is called environment and health, collects in basically both the indicators related to chemicals, where the information that we ask is about the reduction of use, the reduction of the release, and the reduction of presence of dangerous chemicals in the environment and for people. And the other one is related to noise. As you can see, there is next to noise some group of people. This connects to what I mentioned earlier about indicator 1.6, the impact of people. If you report on this indicator, on terrestrial noise level and frequency, then you will be obliged by the system to give also information on the people that will benefit from the activities related to this indicator. The same is for the air related ones, depending on which one you will use to report, knowing that they are a bit different, and maybe the second one, the reduction in presence of air pollutants and related exceedances, is more for larger projects and is often used by strategic projects. But in any case, if you select one of these indicators, please be reminded that the system will oblige you to also indicate the number of people who benefited from the activities related to air. The next one, please. Here we are now into the area of nature and biodiversity, that of course has a direct link to the EU biodiversity strategy and the implementation of habitats and birds directives, as well as the regulation on invasive alien species. There is one indicator that is about the ecosystem and their services that also allows you to capture benefits on the environment, on nature, beyond what is in the Habitats and Birds Directive, being aware that nonetheless there is always a connection also with those. But what I want to say is that the indicator 7.2 and 7.3 aim specifically to collect the information about the support to Natura 2000 and to the species and habitats that are considered in these two directives. Just a reminder, it's very important when you report on these two indicators, 7.2 and 7.3, on species that are under the Habitats and Birds Directive, is that you will link them to the Natura 2000 sites in which these species are present. The next slide, please. And we are getting already to the end of the environmental impacts. It's about the climate mitigation and adaptation. So, of course, the two are split in two, where climate mitigation considers the two sides of the coin. On the one hand, the reduction of the greenhouse gas emission and the carbon sequestration increase. What concerns climate change adaptation, there are two options that are given to you, either to report the reduction of the area that are more vulnerable to climate change, or the infrastructures that are targeted for climate resilience. In both cases, again, you know it by now that since I've put the people next to it, the system will oblige you to report in 1.6 also the number of people who will benefit from adaptation related activities. Next slide, please. This can be relevant to all projects, but of course, if your project is centered on promoting environmental governance, this is the set of indicators that will be more relevant to you. Just as a reminder, you will have to give information about the involvement of duty holders, as well as supervisory enforcement bodies, as well as stakeholders. I mean, you don't have to provide all of them, but these are the options that are given to you depending on the various actors that you will involve in your project. Just maybe one reminder about stakeholders, because these are not meant to be just generic group of people who participate in your activities. They really have to be actors that have a stake and contribute actively to the governance, in the sense of the governance related aspect of your project. The next slide. Which is about information, and this again, it's more for projects that focus on promoting information and awareness on certain environmental and climate aspects. But it can be relevant to also other projects, all projects, in fact, because as it was also discussed this morning, you have a series of activities that relate to the communication, dissemination, and visibility, which are also mentioned in your grant agreement. And the information that you will provide here, even if it's not at the center, let's say, of your activities, can complement the information that you will provide through your reporting about what you did in terms of informing and increasing awareness on the specific focus of your project. Another indicator that it's possibly relevant, it's the networking and synergies with projects and initiatives, where you will not have to report the number of people who were involved in this event, but rather the number of projects and initiatives. And this can be also projects funded through other funding instruments, Horizon Europe, MFAF, and other options that are given in the system. The next, and I'm reaching almost the end of this part, is to remind you which support is available for LIFE beneficiaries. I mentioned it is the external monitoring team, and with this role of the KPI expert that will support you since already at the stage of the first submission. There is a document that you might have seen. I referred for each of the thematic session. Is a compilation of all the guidance that is provided for each indicator in the system. And it's in a single document that is accessible on our website. Please consider also that in the system you will see often popping up some messages that are automatic warning or blocking messages that are linked to some, let's say, rules. One example is the one I mentioned earlier about the climate adaptation, noise, or air-related impacts that will oblige you to report. And if you don't do so, you will receive a warning message telling you to do so. You will also be supported by some automated checks that mostly check on the fact whether you have filled a mandatory indicator, or if the trend that you've used is correct, or if the values that you have provided seem very high compared to the average. Please also consult CINEA website where there are some tutorials and registration of past events, and this will give you also more detailed information on how to like select the context, create the context, so more the technical aspect and the practicalities of the tool. The next, just to remind some few tips, I would suggest at this stage, if you have not done so, is to familiarize with the tool, to read the KPI guidance documents for the indicator that you selected at proposal and grant agreement stage, or that you consider relevant, so that you can understand what you will be asked to report on. Then discuss also with the KPI expert how to best report your impacts and results, and plan from the beginning how to monitor the KPIs. Going back to what I mentioned in the very beginning, please also identify which means of verification or proof of evidence you will be able to have to substantiate the data that you will provide. And with that, I've closed for this part, and I'll pass the floor now to Ulrike for the CET part.
Many thanks. You should hear me now. Hello. Many thanks to Sylvia. I'm Ulrike Nuschler. I work under LIFE22, and Sylvia has already indicated that LIFE22 is a bit different, and I want to try to just within 10 minutes to tell you in what respect. So LIFE22 has only quite recently joined the LIFE program, so and it builds on the energy efficiency part of Horizon 2020. Thus, the mechanics are a bit different, and this is also why we have this distinct chapter inside this presentation. So in what respect is LIFE22 different? So LIFE22, very generally at program level, focuses on policy implementation and market uptake of approaches, technologies, services, and products. So it supports projects that help create favorable regulatory and market conditions. They mobilize investments, build capacity, empower consumers. So just to mention a few typical areas of activity, certainly not all. And also LIFE22 usually embraces very large consortia of around 5 to 15 partners and covering several countries. So the impacts that our projects yield are not only distributed across several countries usually, but very often they're also indirect. And this is a bit different. So they cannot be easily measured. They don't start usually from a very clear metered baseline. Then we implement a new process and see the results. So they are more indirect. However, our projects always, also on the horizon, have always made an effort to quantify the impact, and they will continue to do so, and we will ask them to do so. And there's another, oh yeah, I forgot to say that you should have shown the first slide. This is a bit unfortunate now. So wait a bit. So just to repeat that these impacts are often indirect, but there's still this requirement that projects have to provide the evidence, have to quantify them. And I also want to stress that we do not only have those KPI these KPIs that we are now discussing, and then I'm going to explain. But we also have these, and you're aware of these topic-specific indicators that we have been always monitoring. So beneficiaries will have to report not only on the KPIs, but also on the topic-specific indicators that we have established for every topic. So finally, to say something more general, our program management is different. So we manage the program directly and without technical monitors. And this has also implications on how we move within the KPI tool. You will see this now. So next slide. So now coming to the LIFE22 indicators that we have and the KPI tool and the LIFE22 particularities, we have 11 LIFE22 indicators. So they are predefined, you wouldn't select them. You see them on the slide. They are primary energy savings, final energy savings, renewable generation, greenhouse gas emission reduction, investments, legislation, policy, market introduction, implementation sites, skills, communication, and employment. You should know them all because you have filled them in already at proposal stage as part C. So this is very similar to all LIFE programs, and Sylvia has also emphasized this. And they're also part of the grant agreement. So you should be very familiar with this. Moreover, in your description of the action, so usually it's part A in your grant agreement, you all have a task that requires you to update and fill in the impact values in the KPI tool. And for LiveSet, this is at month 9 and at the project end. Next slide, please. So this is how the KPI tool looks for LiveSet projects when you access it. On top, you have basic information that is imported from eGrants. You don't need to choose any priority area because that is just LiveSet. Then there's a category that is called context. I will explain this to you in a second. And then for LiveSet, you have the 11 predefined indicators that I just mentioned at the bottom. So and these indicators are a priori mandatory. So we will specify it for you in a later stage, but very good time what this mandatory means. So a good time means that we will soon issue guidance. And for these 11 indicators, you will have to fill in the values that describe the impact of your project. Plus, you will have to do this across certain categories that you will see then also. But again, we don't need a value for the project beginning. We need a snapshot at project month 9, and we need it for the project end value, and we also need a value for 5 years beyond project. Next slide. Maybe you just click and make them all come at once. Yeah. So this is already my last LiveSet slide. So with this last slide, let's zoom then into the LiveSet indicators and the main aspects that will structure your impact. So within the so-called context, that is the also geographic context, the tool establishes the geographical context in which your impacts accrue. And differently than in other from other live subprograms, the context on the LiveSet only refer to the so-called territorial context. This means the national level and the territorial levels below, the so-called NUTS levels. I don't go into details, just to mention that they are there. Then the tool also establishes the economic sectors in which the impact happens, the so-called descriptors. And on the LiveSet, we have 4 main categories, notably buildings, the first one, industry and services, transport, and a so-called further sector, which collects all the rest that is not being gathered there. You also see on the slide the so-called flags. One could also call them maybe tags, and these will allow us to tag and filter the projects. However, and this is also different from the other live subprograms, it's the project advisors, so the SINEA advisors that will attribute the flags at a later stage. And as I said several times, the information on these impacts needs to be updated in month 9 and again at the project end. A very important difference is that it will not be technical monitors because we don't have any, but it will be the project advisor who will validate the figures that you will encode into the system. So this is a lot of complexity for just a couple of slides and a few minutes, but I can promise to you that very soon you will receive guidance on how to understand the impacts, how to calculate them, and how to encode them, how to fill them in. And I think the next slide is already the the slide will come slide. So and we have questions coming, I understand.
Hello. Indeed, there are quite a few questions there. So I think we should put the question on the screen, and I'll leave it to you to answer and decide which one you are picking. We have ordered them by numbers of likes. So the one on top are the ones that really would like to have an answer. So many people behind those questions.
Maybe I can take
Yes.
this first one. I believe that first, before giving a direct answer to this question, I think it's important that you understand that the KPIs is not something that is separate from your project. The KPIs is just a sort of quantitative representation of some of the results it has achieved. Based on the experience we have from the past, in the majority of the cases, the KPIs that you will submit at the end will match the result of the project. So if the project has underachieved for whatever reason, it's not because of the KPIs that there will be a consequence. So the KPIs are really part of your project implementation. And one warning or one attention is that I think that even in its sort of rigidity, because it's structured, the two snapshots that you will submit, in fact, will allow you to provide different values. And in my presentation, I pointed out that you have also other tools, the report, the deliverables, where you can explain if deviations have happened. There may be also good reason why certain things could not be implemented. So please do not look at this exercise as something that we only look at your KPIs and then the final assessment of the project will be built on that. And as I also mentioned in the beginning, we are aware that there are the KPIs which provide to us relevant information for the different purposes I've been trying to illustrate, but there are also others, and your project will be looked all together, not just because of the KPI or because of its implementation. So please do try to see them as a continuum. And this is exactly what you had also at proposal stage, because you were asked to explain your impact, the impact of your project, and to complement this information with the part C on KPIs. So do please try to look at them as part of the full picture of your project and not just one element that will make a difference in the way it's judged. Then the second question, who is responsible for reporting the KPIs? I think it's only the coordinator. You will probably have to appoint one person in your consortium that will look into that. And it's the coordinator who will have to then submit. Yes, so you will have to centralize. It's not something that every beneficiary will be able to just fill in. The KPI platform is currently not available. So if this currently means now, I'm not sure if there might be some technical problem for that, but otherwise,
it could refer to LiveSet, maybe. Maybe it refers to LiveSet because indeed for the 21 projects, it's and 22 of course, but they're not even, they're just starting now. It's not available. But
okay.
I assume that this is linked to LiveSet, maybe.
Yeah, but otherwise for also the other, normally they are enabled, but please for at least the nature, circular economy, quality of life and climate projects, do consider that there is this review stage before, and therefore it might not be at your level, but you should still be able to access it and see it. New jobs created, what does this actually include? Only jobs that remain active after the project, or also jobs created for the project? Well, this I will not spend maybe much time, but in fact the best is really to look into what is in the guidance, because this information is provided. In fact, what we ask you is to report on the full-time equivalent, so the post that will be created during the project and that will be maintained after it. So this goes to the together with the fact that you usually report baseline information, project end information, and afterlife. It's also possible to report indirect jobs, although this may be more difficult. But in the case you can find this information and be able to report it, then also this can be included. But please, this is really explained in the guidance, and I have been mentioning this throughout my presentation, and I think that it's really important that you have a look at this. It's relatively easy to access because it's just compiled in one single document, and if you want to check on one specific indicator, you can go to the relevant section. Who has the credential to enter the KPI tool? Only the coordinator? No, it's the coordinator. when will the review by the expert take place? It will take place in these 9 months. So the project have been, the indicators have been now imported in the KPI web tool from eGrants, which means that the workflow has started. So they will start in the coming weeks, and most likely around the time of your first visit from the monitoring team, you will be also contacted by the KPI expert. But of course, they are very well aware that you have this deadline of 9 months, so we'll take contact with you beforehand so that you are in a position to then submit the data. KPI external monitoring team, project advisor, project verifier, by whom are they appointed, chosen? Well, it's the project advisor is us, so it's INEA staff, and the project monitoring team is also the monitors are those that are assigned to your project. The project verifier, it's me, so, in most cases. So we are staff of either the monitoring team or INEA. I think this one on the review I answered. In all the project, there was a possibility of having support in compiling the KPI web tool. To have a reference, I'm not sure what do you mean a reference, because as mentioned, there are different support tools. There is the guidance, there are the various videos that are available. The KPI expert will contact you and will provide you more information and suggestion on how to fill the KPI web tool. Of course, they will not do it for you, but they will do it together with you. You are the owner of the data, and this information will come from you. But they, of course, will support you in understanding or clarifying maybe doubts on some guidance or interpretation of some indicators. Is the KPI expert the same as the technical monitor? He might be, but in principle, not. These KPI experts have been established at, let's say, regional level. So it's 1 or 2 persons for each regional groups, and they work together with the technical monitor. So the technical monitor will look at various aspects of your project, but the KPI expert will look more specifically into the KPIs. And by the way, the moment in which you enter in the system, there is the very first page, which is called project information, and you will have all the people who can actually work on your project, and you will see who has the role of the KPI expert. Is there a template for attendance list for public stakeholders, volunteer events? In case there is not, what should be recorded on the list? There is not such template. We don't need to know the names of the people. We need to have the number. So you have to find a suitable way to keep track of this information. And again, about the stakeholders, I'd like also to point out that these are really the people who have had an active role, and the volunteers, so on. I guess this is information in terms of number that you can trace somehow. Do we have to add more KPIs apart from those who are included in Part C? You don't have to, but you might revise your initial submission if, as I mentioned in my presentation, what you have in Part C is a bit more synthetic information that what is in the system. So now that you enter in the tool, and if you see that either you have misunderstood maybe some indicators because you thought that some information had to be provided and instead you are asked to do something different, this can be revised. Please again talk to the KPI expert about it, and provide always when the opportunity is there, so through deliverables or reports, to explain why a change occurred. But you also might realize that there were some aspects that are relevant in your project that you had not included in Part C, and therefore you can add it.
Maybe I can add on this that for LiveSet, it's only those 11. So you're not asked to look at other impacts. It's those 11. And I think it's the next question is kind of answered as well, no? With our
Yes, please consider that there is what is in Part C is kind of frozen. It's not something that can be modified. What was in the submission is there and will always form part of your grant agreement. Some projects, but it depends on refer to what. This is a bit difficult to reply. Some projects, but refer to what? I'm sorry, I'm afraid I cannot answer because I don't fully get to what was meant here. And then the next one I think is for you, Ulrike.
Probably. Yeah, it's a bit tricky question. A priori mandatory means in the system, they're there and they're mandatory. So you have to fill in values. The question is whether we want to allow you not to address certain of those or just not to include an impact value. We're discussing this. But for some of the impacts of some of the indicators, it might make sense that you are not requested to give a value because there is not such an impact. But as I said, you are going to have very soon, quite soon, extensive and comprehensive guidance on that, on how to fill in these indicators. I'm sorry, I cannot say more than that.
Yeah,
once again, so we have, so I don't know. So we can only open the platform, but we have sent, I don't know, several emails on that. We can only open the platform once our guidance is fully established and tested. I mean, for the for the projects from call 22, this should still not be relevant because you're just starting now or next month. So month 9 is still a bit ahead. For the 21 project, indeed, that's relevant. And I can just say that we're going to provide you with the guidance very soon, and then it will be open. Then the platform will be open for LiveSet.
I can take this one on the proof of evidence. I mean, this is really to, you have to demonstrate that the value that you submit comes from somewhere. Often you have deliverable studies that are carried out during the project implementation. If, for instance, there you have the evidence through them, you can have the evidence of the values that then you submit. You can mention in the comment box in the KPI web tool. This information can be found also in detail in deliverable X, or there might be cases where you have other relevant or public evidence. So it really depends. It's difficult to give now a clear, this was just one example, but it really depends on the type of activities that are and the indicators that we are considering. But in general, the main rule is that you need to show that the data that you submit has some evidence behind it. It's not just a guess and it's not just an estimate. And this is particularly relevant at project end, of course, because here we really ask you to report on results and impacts achieved.
Okay, yeah, I would just completely second that, because also for us, we would ask you for evidence, but we anyway ask this for also for the topic specific indicators for the normal reporting. So the question on LiveSet, no, you're not requested to report 5 years after the project end. You're requested to report already at proposal stage, actually, in the impact section and in part C. The impacts that you expect to have 5 years after the project. This is the logical sequence. So we wouldn't ask you to report 5 years after the end, but you have to report at proposal stage at month 9, and at the project end how you expect the impacts to be 5 years after the project end. And this is in the grant agreement as part C, for example, and as part B.
Thank you very much. So I see that the time to answer question is over. Also, this time we managed to answer all questions with more than one like, which is very good. There were still some questions there. There was one on communication dissemination activities on how to report to them. That's complementary. There will be a session on reporting for climate, nature, and circular economy projects tomorrow. So our colleague Nadia will go into that. But certainly you don't have to report on each single communication dissemination activities if you don't have a deliverable for that in the funding and tender portal when you are reporting. So I'd like to thanks a lot, Sylvia and Ulrike, for their time. I'm amazed how you made the complex topic of indicators clear and easy to digest. So for the audience, if you missed some part, do download the slides and rewatch the presentation, which will be uploaded on the event platform. You're still more than 700 participants online, representing approximately 250 projects, new projects. So I've seen in slide the question why we do not do such sessions live and physical in Brussels anymore, like in the good old times. Obviously, we started this during the COVID pandemic period, and we could appreciate two very big positive aspects. An enormous savings of CO2 emissions, because you're not traveling anymore to join and see us, and the fact that the meeting can be joined by many people of each consortium, and we can easily record those sessions, make them available for all interested parts afterwards. So I can guarantee that there will be, in the course of your project, there will be occasions to meet among projects, various thematic events, platform meetings, and networking meetings, which are organized by the LIFE program or initiated by you, and will meet. So I'd like also to thank Sylvia and Ulrike for reminding us the fact that some materials and instructions differ for the different specific programs, namely nature, circular economy, and quality of life, and climate have very often some different paths than clean energy transition. This is the case also for tomorrow's session. It is only aimed at nature, circular economy, and quality of life, and climate. It starts at 9, same link as today. The topic there will be the role of the external monitoring team. There were questions on this. You will learn more from my colleague Cesar Siones there. Reporting and payments, the process and the use of the IT tool with Nadia Lamandas, who will also guide you through the way of how to use the process and what's the process for amendment and the IT tool used. And it will be finished with a live close to market support to beneficiaries, how that work with Milena Shumanova, and you will be in the very good hands of Manuela Osmi throughout the meeting tomorrow. She will take my place. And now, last but not least, I'm very pleased to welcome here our SANEA director, Paloma Bagarrote, to give you a final message of this day. Thanks, Paloma, for being there. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Julia, for this, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I suppose that you are a little bit hungry and that you are looking forward to your lunch. I just want first to thank you for being all you here today to these, important sessions which will help you in your journey in your life projects. I'm very proud to welcome you here today in our LIFE family. In SINEA, we are very pleased with the projects that were selected under the 2022 calls for proposals. And therefore, I would like to congratulate you for the excellent projects that you have presented. These projects are in fact addressing key policy priorities of the European Union and will help to address also most pressing challenges that we are facing today, whether we are talking about clean energy transition, climate change, environmental conservation of nature and biodiversity in the European Union. My colleagues and myself are looking forward to the results of your projects, and we can say that we stand ready to assist you in the best way possible in your life journey, which starts today. LIFE is a unique instrument serving the implementation of the environmental and climate policies of the European Union. As Ursula von der Leyen said, the President of the Commission, the European Green Deal was born out of the necessity to protect our planet. And the LIFE program, with the wealth, experience, inspiration, innovation, and continuous demonstration to the feasibility of change, is at the heart of the European Union Green Deal. You know, the program aims at the better management and protection of natural resources, improves quality of our lives, and helps fighting against climate change, connecting people and policy. You know, 30 years worth of projects which have been funded with the European Union program LIFE have been very much successful implemented. You know, we have a diverse list of projects, whether they are contributing to the implementation of the Natura 2000 network, others that support a sustainable circular economy, but as well we have projects supporting the climate action of the European Union and the clean energy transition. And all these LIFE projects made an important and tangible difference to our environment. And today you are following their footsteps. So, you know, I'm sure that you are looking forward to starting your projects and turning them into success. But what do we at CINEA mean by success? I would say two things. First one is about impact, results, and long-lasting effects. Second, sound technical and financial management. You know, in respect of the first point, there are dedicated thematic sessions, which are a good opportunity for all of you to network and to discuss, you know, with other beneficiaries and see how they are addressing environmental problems similar to yours and get inspired by their ideas. So I will also say, you know, actively share and communicate on your social networks about your LIFE results, about your project results. You know, I think that at the end, the power of LIFE, after all, lays in the replication requirement. To the second point about sound technical and financial management. You know, LIFE, like all the other European Union programs, have a set of rules and requirements. And it's important for all of you that you understand the rules, but you apply them correctly. And I have seen, you know, how many questions you have put now in the chat, and I'm sure that, you know, we hope that we will be ready to reply all of them, whether now or whether, you know, during the life of your projects. That's very important. It's very important to follow the rules because, you know, the final responsibility of implementing well the grant lays with you. And I'm sure that you are well equipped to managing your grant, but we are also at CINEA ready to help you and to, you know, clarify any kind of doubts that you will have in your journey. So just, I would like to end by wishing a lot of success in the implementation of your projects, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results in a few years' time. So I count on your capacity on our capacity to support you along the way, and I would like to wish you good luck. Thank you.